Hey everyone, my name is Jake, and welcome to the 19th episode of Good Timin. As always on this podcast, we're going to be talking about one of our favorite bands, the Beach Boys. And on today's show, we're going to be continuing our Beatles versus Beach Boys discussion, where we compare the band's albums track by track and share our thoughts and opinions on both groups' material. If you watched our first Beatles Beach Boys episode, you saw that we mostly focused on covering the band's releases from 1963 through 1965. So for this show, we're going to be picking up from there and discussing and comparing both groups' music from 1966 through 1970. As I'm sure most of you listening know, this was a very significant period for both the Beach Boys and the Beatles. You had the Beach Boys releasing Pet Sounds, which is regarded by many as their most acclaimed and influential album. And then you also had the release of Good Vibrations and the recording of the Smile material during this time. And then, of course, also the band released several lo-fi albums in the late 60s, such as Smiley Smile, Wild Honey and Friends, which are all fan favorites today. And then they kicked off the 70s by releasing what's arguably one of their strongest records in Sunflower. This was definitely a very notable period for the Beach Boys musically. And then with the Beatles, they were also putting out some of their greatest music during this time as well. In just 5 years, from 1966 through 1970, they released Revolver, Sgt. Pepper's, The White Album, Abbey Road, and Let It Be. Which is honestly pretty incredible that they released that many amazing albums in that short of a period of time. And I think that really shows what a creative and innovative period that this was for them. Of course, by 1970, the Beatles had broken up, so we're not going to be able to compare any Beach Boys albums from beyond then, but it's still going to be really interesting to compare the albums that were recorded during this period and discuss them as a group. For today's episode, I'm joined by Justin, Matt, and hopefully Riley, who I believe will be joining us a little later on. As always, I'm happy to have you guys here, and I can't wait to continue our discussion on these two amazing bands. Before we begin, I do want to give another quick shout out to the Apples and Oranges podcast. David, who runs that podcast, is a friend of our show, and he joined us for our Holland episode last month. And on Apples and Oranges, he and his son Jackson match up the Beach Boys and Beatles albums head to head and discuss and compare the band's music. Their show was really kind of the inspiration for us to do these Beatles Beach Boys episodes on our podcast. So we definitely recommend checking it out if you're interested in this concept or just really love both bands like we do. I think that's just about everything. So to begin our discussion, do any of you guys want to share your general thoughts and feelings about this period for the Beatles and the Beach Boys, or just how you feel the two bands influenced and played off of each other's music during this time?
Well, so this is kind of when the Beach Boys really came into their own, I would say, and really started releasing wonderful records. And we had obviously Today in the last period, but here we had, Pet Sounds, one of the greatest albums of all time. The Beatles obviously were releasing a ton of great records. I would say you kind of start hearing, I don't think I hear as much Beatles influence. I don't think I hear as much of the Beatles influence on the Beach Boys music, but I hear a lot of the Beach Boys influence on the Beatles music. Obviously, you have Here, There, and Everywhere on Revolver, which is basically Paul's version of God Only Knows. Pretty much the entirety of Sgt. Pepper's wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Pet Sounds. I think Paul and George Martin have said that. And then the other one I would say is on the White Album, back in the USSR, very Beach Boys influence.
Obvious. Yeah.
So yeah, kind of interesting. And then also you forgot to mention Jake Magical Mystery Tour as well, which I know technically wasn't an LP in the UK, but it kind of became an LP when the catalog was standardized. And I actually quite really enjoy that album. So that one also is in this period. So a lot of great stuff coming from both groups. I feel though, a lot of the Beach Boys stuff wasn't really acknowledged until later on during this period, whereas a lot of the Beatles stuff was really loved from the get-go. But still a lot of great stuff coming from both groups. So I'm definitely looking forward to this. This is going to be thing and a lot of fun to talk about.
Justin,
Yeah,
any thoughts?
for me, I feel exactly the same as Matt's. One note that he said that it wasn't the Beach Boys stuff wasn't really accepted by fans right away, kind of thing. For many years, a lot of people didn't even know these albums existed. So it's pretty hard to find, even in the late '60s, early '70s. Some of these albums, like Friends and 2020, went out of print automatically. So a lot of people didn't get to experience this music back then, and it wasn't like the Beatles, where it was at the top of the charts kind of thing. A lot of this music went under the radar for the Beach Boys at this point, and I think that this period for them, 66 to about 70, this is probably their best music in my opinion. and they really started coming to their own. And then the Beatles as well, like at this point too, like they're really like the bar is getting higher and higher and higher every time with both the groups. And like Matt, I hear more of a Beach Boys influence with the Beatles stuff than I do hear a Beatles influence with the Beach Boys stuff. Um, Obviously, the Beach Boys were listening to the Beatles at the time. I know Carl loved the Beatles and Dennis too as well, and Brian, of course. Um, but I just hear less of an influence on them, and it's like they're doing their own kind of thing, and basically following Brian's muse along through to 2020, and Sunflower to an extent as well too, because Brian's still on that record. So yeah,
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, like you guys said, that like in both of these periods, the bands are arguably recording some of their greatest music and their greatest albums. Yet commercially, it's a completely different story for the Beach Boys versus the Beatles. You know, the Beatles were on top of the world and selling, all their albums going to number one and still huge singles. And the Beach Boys, well, they did have some success to kick off this period, like with Pet Sounds, which did all right, but not to the standard of some of their previous releases. But then still like having really successful singles like Good Vibrations, of course, and like Wouldn't It Be Nice. But from that point on, though, you definitely see a decline in terms of their sales. You have albums like Friends and Sunflower, which just bombed commercially, especially in the
yeah,
States. I know in the UK, overseas, they were still doing decent with the record sales, still having some high charting stuff. But in the US, they were really struggling commercially, whereas the Beatles really weren't. The Beatles were huge around the world.
yeah,
Um,
everywhere. Yeah,
right. And in terms of their music and like their influence, I'm with you guys as well. I think you can definitely hear more of the Beach Boys influence on the Beatles than you can the Beatles on the Beach Boys. As I think Matt, you mentioned, like the clear example of this is back in the USSR, of course, where like they basically were inspired to write a Beach Boys style song. Of course, Mike Love has claimed he played a part in possibly writing some of the lyrics to that, or at least suggesting to Paul like some lyrics. So we may never know the truth on that. Believe what you want, but in terms of like some of the material on some of the other Beatles albums, I feel like some of the Baroque stuff you can really hear the Pet Sounds influence. I think of on Sergeant Pepper's songs like "Fixing a Hole," "She's Leaving Home," on Revolver songs like "For No One," "Here, There, and Everywhere." Also from Sergeant Pepper with "A Little Help from My Friends." I feel like on those songs you can really hear that Pet Sounds Beach Boys influence on the Beatles' music. You can definitely tell that the Beatles were listening to that, and I think there was definitely some inspiration there. In terms of the other way around, I don't really hear it as clearly. One song that I did write that kind of reminded me of something that maybe like McCartney would have wrote during this late 60s period was Busy Doing Nothing. I feel like that kind of has like a vibe of like maybe like some of his White Album material or even something from like McCartney, like his solo record from 1970. But like again, that's not like a clear influence, but I could definitely see Paul writing like a song like that. I think you could definitely compare that to some of his material. But yeah, in terms of like the influence of the Beatles on the Beach Boys, I just don't hear it as clearly. I think with Brian specifically, he was more influenced by like Bacharach. You can definitely hear like like the influence of his music. Also, I feel like Phil Spector, obviously, and like a lot of that brill building stuff that was really popular in the '60s. You can definitely hear that influence very clearly. But I just don't hear it as clearly in terms of the Beatles' influence on the Beach Boys. But
yeah.
of course, both bands did play off of each other. They were both definitely listening to each other's records for sure. So it's a very interesting period. And I'm really looking forward to talking about it with you guys.
This period was kind of the first, I guess, real interesting, complex music that I ever really got into. Like I really loved when I was younger the Red album, all of those tracks. But for the longest time, I kind of discarded these as like the Blue album tracks that I always kind of liked. I really liked a lot of the upbeat stuff, so like Lady Madonna and all that. But like once I kind of hit sophomore year of high school and I really started getting into music, Revolver was one of the, in Rubber Soul, but definitely Revolver was one of the first albums I could say was like, holy crap, this is actually blowing my mind. Like that music can kind of go in this direction. I had a long period of time where Sergeant Pepper's was my favorite album of all time, and then I kind of got back in Revolver, kind of went back and forth. But this is a period that I've always kind of regarded as this is some of the best music ever made, and it always holds a special place in my heart as when music really started to hit different for me, especially on Revolver, Abbey Road, even Let It Be in the White Album. The White Album as an album is still kind of growing on me because I was kind of always one So it's kind of like a mixed bag. But I mean, every time I listen to it, there's always a new track that I'm like, oh, this is actually pretty good. Um,
Yeah,
yeah. So
there's so much
these albums
stuff
hold a
on there.
special place in my heart. As for the Beach Boys, this was kind of the first period that I really latched onto with Wild Honey. I really liked Friends. I like a lot of the tracks on 2020. Um, yeah, it's both kind of hold a special place in my heart for different reasons. This is when I really delved into the Beach Boys' deeper stuff. This and I guess Sunflower and Holland, but both hold a special place in my heart, and it's gonna be pretty tough going putting these against each other. But well, not really. We'll get there.
All right, so do we want to get into the first album matchup?
Yeah, give me a second to pull it up because I just got home. All right. Revolver versus Pet Sounds. This one was surprisingly tough for me because Revolvers and Rubber Soul are my favorite Beatles albums, and Pet Sounds is my third favorite Beach Boys. But I honestly thought Revolver was gonna smash it out of the park for me. But yeah, we'll get there. So the first matchup is Taxman versus Wouldn't It Be Nice. I never really cared for Taxman. That's one of my hot takes with George. I'm a big George fan. He was one of my first guitar idols. So when I was really getting into guitar, I learned all the George parts for pretty much every Beatles song, but I've never really cared for Taxman. I appreciate that they're kind of getting political with their music. I can appreciate that, and I do think the chords that were used in the song are pretty interesting. Kind of getting those like jazzy stuff, and there's also, I guess, the Hendrix chord is in this song, but it's never done much for me. And Wouldn't It Be Nice is one of my favorite Beach Boys songs. The 12-string riff dun, 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 is really cool. There's three different bass lines going on. It's such a beautiful song, and I've never cared for Taxman, so I'm going Wouldn't It Be Nice.
Yeah, I don't mind Taxman. I think it's a cool way to start off Revolver, but putting it up against Wouldn't It Be Nice? Yeah, no, that's easy. Wouldn't It
And
Be Nice, I think, is one of the Beach Boys' best songs. It's one of their most popular songs. It's a
yeah,
cool track. It's melancholic. I love the intro with that abrupt, like that kind of like carnival sounding, whatever it is. And you got like that abrupt drum, and then you get into the thing, and
yeah.
then the whole part with like the harmonies are amazing. And yeah, easily Wouldn't It Be
The
Nice?
the carnival sound is a 12-string guitar being played is uh I do there's a song by the Jam. I'm a big fan of Paul Weller and the Jam called Start that it takes the Taxman bass line and it blows Taxman away. It's such a fantastic song. So
That's the
and
guitar. What did they like run it through something to get that sound?
on the 12 string, I think it was plugged right into the
Oh, okay.
interface. But yeah,
Okay.
that song "Start" by the Jam. If you guys do like Taxman, listen to that song because it's like Taxman but on steroids. It's so good.
Yeah, because it's always cool when they do stuff with guitars. Like one of my favorites is the intro to Sweet Jane by the Velvet Underground. I love that intro. That intro, like I could live in that intro. It's so gorgeous. But yeah, easily wouldn't it be nice for me?
Yeah, same here. Easily Wouldn't It Be Nice? I'm with Riley on this one with Taxman. Like it's never been a favorite of mine. It honestly used to be a skip. Like I just did not like it at all. Now I like it enough. I can also appreciate the lyrics. Like they were going more political. It's interesting to see the band doing that. But in terms of like George's compositions, I'm also a huge George fan. I love a ton of his Beatles work. I love a lot of his solo stuff. But this is just not a favorite of mine. So Wouldn't It Be Nice is easily the better track for me. It's one of my favorite Beach Boys songs, and really one of those songs that I think really highlights the greatness of Brian Wilson as a producer and arranger. So easily Wouldn't It Be Nice for me.
I really like Taxman. I really like Paul's solo. But if you're putting up against Wouldn't It Be Nice, I have to go with Wouldn't It Be Nice. It's just classic Beach Boys. I love the 12 string riff at the beginning. That's actually through reverb. It's like a really heavy reverb. That's why it sounds like it doesn't sound like a guitar. Um, and then just the harmonies and just the subject matter too. I think a lot of people can identify with that kind of like living in that fantasy land of wouldn't it be nice like when we were a kid, like when you're a kid, and if when we're older and getting married and having this love of your life kind of thing. I think a lot of people can identify with that. So yeah, wouldn't it be nice for me?
All right. The next one is "You Still Believe in Me" versus Eleanor Rigby. Um, I think I don't care for Eleanor Rigby. I like everything about the song. I love that the Beatles are getting really melancholic, especially Paul. I really like the orchestra on it. I like the notes being used, but when it's all put together, it just doesn't do anything for me. I appreciate it more than I actually like it, if that makes any sense. I love that is kind of introducing the orchestra into regular 60s pop music, and I love everything about it, but it's never done anything for me. It doesn't excite me. It doesn't bring me anywhere. It's just a track. Um, but and you still believe in me. I enjoy this one a solid amount. I don't think it's the best on Pet Sounds by any mean, but if I'm going to listen to one over the other, I'm probably going to listen to the You Still Believe in Me from Pet Sounds.
Yeah, Eleanor Rigby for me. I adore this song. I love everything about it. I love the orchestra. I love Paul's vocals. I love the lyrics. I love like how the storytelling in it. It's just such like you can close your eyes and visualize everything that's talking the song. And I can, I think a lot of people can relate to it. Like kind of like I can at least relate to it, like kind of like, being alone, not really having too many people to like rely on and kind of like, I just think it's just so heartbreaking. Like, Eleanor Rigby died in the church and was buried alone with her name. Nobody came. And You Still Believe in Me, I do like, but it's not my favorite on Pet Sounds, and Eleanor Rigby is one of my favorites on Revolver. And I love the way the strings sound almost like they're crying. The way that George Martin or arranged it is beautiful. So I'm going Eleanor Rigby.
Yeah, Eleanor Rigby for me as well. I love everything that you said about this song, Matt. I totally agree with. I love the use of the violin and cello on this song. I think it's really well arranged. Love the lyric too, very haunting, moving lyric. This is just a masterpiece of a song to me. Also, I have memories of this song growing up. I can remember this is one of the first Beatles songs I can really remember listening to, like when I was younger and being really like moved by it. Also, as somebody that played violin for many years, I can remember playing this on violin, figuring it out, learning how to play it. So I have that memory as well with it. So it's a song that I feel like has been a part of my life ever since I've been into the Beatles, and I just absolutely love it. I think it's a masterpiece of a song. You Still Believe in Me, I like. I think it's a really great second track on Pet Sounds, but as a song compared to Eleanor Rigby, I'm definitely going to go Eleanor Rigby. I think it's better.
Yeah, so Eleanor Rigby, I really like this song. It's it was always a haunting song for me. Like it has that kind of haunting vibe, and along with the lyrics, it's kind of like a very like Matt said, like it's a really it's like a haunting lyric. And You Still Believe in Me, I really like as well too. This is really tough for me. I like the harpsichord and You Still Believe in Me. I really like the harmonies, and Brian's vocal is really great on that track as well too. But I have to go with Eleanor Rigby. It's just it's Eleanor Rigby.
Yeah, it definitely is, and it's a good song. I just don't care for
Yeah.
it. I'm gonna get fucking slandered for that. Oh my God. I gotta say though, from here on out, it's gonna be tough for the Beach Boys. So That's Not Me versus I'm Only Sleeping. I'm Only Sleeping 1000%. I'm a big John stan. I like the guitars on this song. I mean, it's such an interesting way to use the acoustic guitar. The lyrics are kind of following that pattern on this album of it being a bit more mature. I feel like for both bands, this is where they really hit the mature point. I think the Beatles definitely had some moments of it on Rubber Soul and Help, but this is like this album as a whole. They're hitting that mature moment. But yeah, I'm Only Sleeping 1000%. I love the guitars on it. I love John's vocal. I feel like he sounds so drowsy when he's singing it. And That's Not Me is actually a pretty good track, a pretty good track on Pet Sounds, but I love John Lennon. I'm gonna go with I'm Only Sleeping. So
Yeah, I'm gonna go with I'm Only Sleeping too. I love, like you said, I like the vocals. I love the use. I think this is one of the first songs that they use the automatic double tracking on, which works. I can relate to the lyrics. I love to sleep. I really do. So like I totally relate to the lyrics. I love the harmony with John and Paul, the keeping an eye on the world going by my window. Great part of the song. I love the backwards guitar solo too. I think that was really clever. And what's also really cool too is when you listen to the different mixes of this song, there's like about 4 or 5 different mixes of this song, all with a different backwards guitar solo, which is kind of cool. I really do like That's Not Me though. I think that's a great track too. I think it's another song that I think a lot of people can relate to with the lyrics, I once had a dream, so I packed up and slipped to the city. I do think it's a great, great song. I really do. I love that song, but I also really love I'm Only Sleeping, and I prefer I'm Only Sleeping. So I'm voting for I'm Only Sleeping.
I'm also voting for I'm Only Sleeping. I think you pretty much covered everything, Matt. I love the backwards guitar solo. I think it's really cool sounding. I love the experimentation there. I just love the melody of the song. That middle section with Paul that you guys mentioned too. That's not me. I think I appreciate this song more lyrically than I do like melodically. I think the lyrics are really moving. Like like what matters to me is what I could be to just one girl. I really like that line a lot. It's a song you can really connect with lyrically. I feel like, which you could say the same for the majority of the Pet Sounds tracks. But if I have to pick one, I'm definitely gonna go "I'm Only Sleeping." I think it's one of John's highlights from this period for sure. It's a great song.
I'm Only Sleeping is a great song. I really love the acoustic guitars. They're like super compressed. Ringo's drum sound on this, the snare drum is just really great for this song. Um, yeah, and That's Not Me was one of my favorite songs on Pet Sounds when I first listened to it. It still is one of my favorites. And yeah, I'm going to be the odd man out and say That's Not Me.
All right. Next one is Don't Talk, Put Your Head on My Shoulder versus Love You Too. This is kind of a sweep for me. Don't Talk easily. This is a song I've been appreciating more and more after each listen. It's definitely growing on me. I listened to a stripped back version, is like really blown away just by the vocal that Brian delivers. That whole track has been growing on me a whole lot. It's definitely one of my newer favorites from Pet Sounds. And Love You Too. I think this is George really delving into the Indian influence that he was getting around this time. And I do appreciate this one better than some of the other times he delves into that style. I do really like this one. I think this is arguably one of the more psychedelic moments from the Beatles, maybe the most next to Tomorrow Never Knows. But I'm going Don't Talk. Don't Talk is such a beautiful song. And Love You Too is fine, and I appreciate it, but Don't Talk.
Yeah, I'm going with Don't Talk as well. It's a song that really is a beautiful song. Brian's vocal is superb. The lyrics are great. I love the part where like the orchestra kind of builds up in like the middle, like there's like you have like the building up of like the strings and everything up until you get to like the final vocal. Love You Too. It's definitely not my least favorite George Indian song. It's not my favorite either, but I do like it in the context of um Pet Revolver. I probably wouldn't choose to put it on myself. I enjoy it for what it is, but yeah, if you're putting up, but compared to Don't Talk, nah, I'm going Don't Talk.
Yeah, Don't Talk for me as well. Love You Too, honestly, at this point for me, like I'm not a huge fan of a lot of George's like Indian influenced Beatles tracks. Like they just don't do too much for me. And this one is one that still doesn't really click with me. It's a skip for me, honestly. Like if I'm listening to Revolver, I don't really want to hear this one. But Don't Talk, Put Your Head on My Shoulder is one of my all-time favorite Beach Boys songs. It's either my first or second favorite track on Pet Sounds, probably between that and God Only Knows. It's just a beautiful song. Absolutely love the arrangement, the orchestration. Just the backing track of this alone is beautiful. But then you take those beautiful vocals from Brian, great lyrics, like really moving. Being here with you feels so right. We could live forever tonight. It's just great lyrics and gorgeous song. So easily Don't Talk, Put Your Head on My Shoulder for me. This is just an amazing song. And honestly, looking at the Revolver track list, I think this would beat just about every song on Revolver for me if you matched it up against them. I just love it that much. So, yeah.
Yeah, Love You Too. I actually really appreciate this song. It gives kind of a unique texture to the album. After kind of just like this pop rock tracks, and you have the sitar come in and everything. And I like a lot of world music as well too, so I'm a little bit more open to this than most people would be. So it is a pretty good track for me. Don't Talk is an absolutely gorgeous track on Pet Sounds. I love the use of the drums, just the ride cymbal basically throughout the entire song. And then there's a timpani that comes in at the end I really like. And Brian's vocal is just
Oh,
unbelievable. This is probably one of his best vocals he ever did. But I'm going to have to go with Don't Talk.
All right. I'm waiting for the day versus Here, There, and Everywhere. Oh,
cool.
geez. I'm gonna give this one a tie because I have thought this over a lot. I'm waiting for they're two different two different completely different songs. I'm waiting for the day has that blast of energy with it. Those drums are absolutely incredible. This was one of the first like deep cuts off Pet Sounds. I was like, holy shit, because I knew God Only Knows, and I knew Wouldn't It Be Nice. And I remember listening to this for the first time. I'm like, this is like so rocking without it being rocking. But Here, There, and Everywhere is one of my favorite Paul songs. Period. I mean I know I shit on Paul a lot for like a lot of his granny pop stuff, but this song is so beautiful. This and there's another one on this album from him that are absolutely gorgeous. The guitar on this is so simple. I think it's just an electric guitar just being strummed, which is kind of
Yeah.
weird because I feel like with this song you'd probably go with an acoustic, but he went with the electric, which is pretty cool. Um, so on one hand you have a really gorgeous, just simple song, and then you have this absolute rocker of, I guess, wall of sound production from Brian, and it is really tough because they're both two of my favorite songs off each album. So I gave this one a tie.
Yeah, I gave it a tie too. I'm waiting for the day. I love that song. One of my favorites on Pet Sounds. I love, like you mentioned, the drums. The drums are great. I love the lyrics. I love Brian's vocal. I love the coda. It's like, you didn't think, no. Da, 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 da. I love that
Yeah.
part. But then Here, There, and Everywhere is just, I mean, it's basically Paul's take on Golly Knows, and it's just a beautiful song. You know, he just did a great job with that song. The lyrics are wonderful, the nice little harmonies. Like you said, the guitar. I just learned today it's electric. I thought it was acoustic this whole time. But yeah, easily, that's definitely a tie for me. I love both of those songs very much.
Well, I'm gonna make it 3 ties because I also agree with you guys. It's a tie for me as well. I cannot pick one. I absolutely love both of these songs. Here, There, and Everywhere, as you guys mentioned, is just gorgeous. It was Paul's response to God Only Knows, his attempt to write a song like that. And while I don't think it's as great as God Only Knows, I think it's a really great song. One of the highlights from this album. Really heartfelt lyric and vocal from Paul on this one. Just a beautiful melody. I'm Waiting for the Day is one of my favorite album tracks from Pet Sounds. I think it's great. I love the energy of the drums, like the opening. My favorite part of this song is the I know you cried and you felt blue, but if I could, I'd give strength to you. I love that lyric and that melodic part. And just the outro is great too with the you didn't think, no. I love that too, Matt. I know you mentioned that, but yeah, this is too hard for me to choose, so I'm gonna have to say a tie as well. These are two just really great songs, and I love them both.
Yeah, I agree with everybody here. Here, There, and Everywhere is such a great song. It's interesting the use of the electric guitar versus the acoustic. Although Paul, when he later re-recorded it for Broad Street, he used the acoustic guitar. It's kind of interesting, but and it was inspired by God Only Knows. But I like Jake. I think God Only Knows is a superior song. Although Here, There, and Everywhere is also a great song. But and I'm Waiting for the Day is a really great song as well too. It has the timpani in the beginning again, and then the drums, both of them playing at the same time there. And Brian's vocal in that section you mentioned, Jake, like I really like that. That's one of my favorite sections of the song. When I give strength to you, that part. So I'm gonna have to go with I'm Waiting for the Day. I'm gonna choose that one.
I really like the drums throughout both of those, or the whole
Yeah.
song, but I really like that part at the end where they come back and it's dun 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 dun. You didn't think, no.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
absolutely rocks. They should have done that on stage a couple of times, especially in like early 70s. Like that would have absolutely ripped. Yeah, let's go away for a while versus Yellow Submarine. I think you guys already know my thoughts on this. Let's go away for a while. 1000%. You could not have picked a more stacked matchup for me. I've given my thoughts on that one a lot. I really like it's just such a beautiful instrumental, and I feel like it really shows Brian's genius on a different level. So I won't go into too much detail on that one. And Yellow Submarine's all right. I don't hate it. I think it's a fine children's song. I don't think it's that deep that like, oh, it doesn't belong on Revolver. Something crazy. I think that's just a bunch of bullshit. I think it's fine. It gives Ringo a vocal. So it's fine, but you're comparing it to what I think is like one of Brian's greatest artistic expressions in a song. So let's go away for a while.
Okay. I'm going for Yellow Submarine. Here's the thing, and I know this, I'm gonna get dragged for this. I think Let's Go Away for a While is fine. I think it's fun, but I've always, I've said it before, like I think like it's nice fluff. It's fluff. For me, it's fluff. Like it's nice, but it's charming. Well, you can disagree, but I think it's fluff. Whereas like Yellow Submarine, I just think it's so much fun. It's like a great sing-along tune. I love Ringo's Everyman vocals. I just love it. I just think it's like so much fun. I just really enjoy listening to it. So I voted for Yellow Submarine.
It's not fluff though. Oh my god.
It is. Like to me, it is. Like
It's not fluff.
To me, it's fluff. It's nice fluff. It's
Dude,
nice
you don't have to like it, but you can't call it
No,
fluff.
I like it, but it's like it's just like I said, it's just charming fluff. Like it's not
It's
like
fluff for you, and
it's
that's
fluff for me. It's fluff
all
for me.
right.
Like I
I'll
said
take
before.
that, but it's not fluff on
I've
the
said it
album.
before. Like I think both Subterraneans is better than this, better than any.
I don't care about that. I don't think it's fluff. No. All right. I know it's a personal opinion, so I'm not gonna attack you for it.
Yeah, I mean,
I just personally very, very much so disagree. But it's whatever.
that's fine.
Anyway, I'm gonna go with "Let's Go Away for a While" for this one. This is one of my favorite Beach Boys instrumentals. I think it's beautiful. I love my favorite part is that part where it gets quiet halfway through, and then that solo guitar part comes in, like the down, 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 down. I think that's so beautiful. That's easily my favorite part of the song. I like the fade out too, like with the drums at the end too. I really like that. This is just a beautiful instrumental. I really love it. Yellow Submarine, yeah, it's a fun sing along song. I think it makes sense that this was the song that Ringo sings lead on Revolver. I enjoy it for what it is. When I saw Ringo live, I remember everyone was singing along to this, and it was a lot of fun. I always like the part like towards the end, like where they start like echoing the vocal, like in our yellow or in my yellow submarine, submarine. I always like that. But easily, let's go for away for a while. For me, it's the superior track in my opinion.
Yeah, Yellow Submarine is a fun song. It gives a little bit of variety, just like Love You Too to the album. It has a charming Ringo vocal. I really like that section that Jake mentioned as well too, where John's kind of echoing and he kind of like laughs at the end. But yeah, it provides a little bit of fun to an otherwise serious album. But then Let's Go Away for a While has that beautiful vibraphone that kind of is the uh, the main instrument of that track. And then I also like that section. There's a lot of different sections in this song. I like that section where the drums come in. That's really cool, and the strings, everything about this song I really love. And even though it doesn't have like a clear, like it has a lot of different sections, it doesn't have like a clear like this is the melody kind of thing. It's kind of like a journey kind of thing, which I really like. And I really like when Brian did these kind of compositions. It's one of his best instrumentals, I would say. So I'm gonna go with "Let's Go Away for a While."
Yeah, that's what I really like about Brian's instrumentals is they don't have a set pattern. Like this is
Yeah,
the verse, this is the chorus. It's
you're on a
kind of
journey.
just like it's like yeah, it's a path. It's just a straight line. There's no returning. There's no. It's awesome. That's what I really like about them. There's like
Yeah,
I remember looking up I think the chord structure to this one on surfermoon.net, and it's just like
all over the place.
all over the place. And then I did the same thing for Summer Means New Love and Pet Sounds, and it's the same thing. Although
Is it?
Pet
Yeah,
Sounds is a bit more has some of that repetitiveness, but it's
yeah,
still such a great instrumental. But this is
yeah,
probably
yeah.
my instrumental, and it's somewhat close, but there's a decent sized gap between this and Pet Sounds. But yeah, it's and Matt, all love.
No,
I do love Yellow Submarine, but
I do like Let's Go Away for a While. I do. It's just I kind of said it before where it's like I just really like instrumentals that are more ambient. And this for
yeah,
me
yeah, I can get that because
I,
you want a
yeah,
certain
like
thing from a certain kind of song.
exactly. That's why I love Bowie's Low so much because it's so damn ambient. Like where it's like I like a lot of Brian's instrumentals, but for me they're more melodic and I prefer like songs with vocals to be melodic, whereas I prefer instrumentals to be more ambient. Like some of my favorite film scores are very ambient. Like I know
Right.
we talk about American Beauty. That's why I love the American Beauty score. It's so damn ambient. I think Thomas Newman did a
Yeah.
great job with that. That's just my
Yeah.
opinion. But I do like Let's Go Away for All. Don't get me wrong. I like it much better than Pet Sounds. Pet Sounds for me is the worst song on Pet Sounds. But
Yeah, I could understand how you might think that one's fluff. But yeah, because I mean I get it. I kind of I like these instrumentals. I feel like they're very melodic, but I mean it's not gonna be everybody's cup of tea. So I
no,
totally
yeah, and that's the thing. Like I love melodic music, but I prefer melodic matters more to me when it's a song with lyrics. When it's an instrumental, I prefer things that are more ambient. That's just where I'm at. And I just don't think the Beach Boys did ambient that well.
Yeah. All right. So Sloop John B versus She Said, She Said. It's a pretty big sweep for me. I really like Sloop John B a lot, but She Said it's so down my alley with the guitar work on there is so damn good. And I like the she's making me feel like I've never been born. And then it repeats that melodic line with the
Yeah,
guitar. It's so damn
yeah.
good. And this is where I feel like a lot of their Britpop influence kind of shows because that kind of like I don't know if it's really distorted. I feel like distortion wasn't really like a thing yet. I think this is a bit more, maybe not fuzz. I think it's overdriven, but still that guitar work is so damn good. I like the vocal deliveries. It's right down my alley. I love this. And Sloop John B is a really great song. and I can argue both ways whether it belongs on Pet Sounds or not. And I really enjoy it, but She Said is like totally what I want from the Beatles, especially from this era. That's why I like She Said. And we'll get to I Want to Tell You. And that's why I also really enjoy Rain. Rain's one of my favorite songs from the band. I really wish Rain was on this album. It might make it my favorite album ever, but it's not. So tough.
That's a great track.
Yeah,
Rain is such a good track. And it was right around this era, but I know that the Beatles wanted to separate their singles from. But yeah, She Said, awesome, awesome song. I'm gonna pick that one.
Yeah, Rain is an awesome song. Yeah, I agree. She said, I love the way it sounds. I love, like you said, like kind of that psychedelic, kind of distorted vibe, Brit poppy. I really like Lennon's vocal on it too. I love the lyrics. I know Paul walked out on this song. He disagreed with, I guess, the arrangement or something. I wanted to say too, this was not on the American Revolver, which is why I think the American Revolver was far inferior. And I really don't understand why they didn't put Rain on the American Revolver. I've always wondered why, because it's so lopsided towards McCartney and Harrison without the Lennon songs. Sloop John B is nice. I like it for what it is, but I've always gone back and forth whether or not it truly belongs on Pet Sounds. That's a whole nother debate. But if you're putting it up against She Said, yeah, I'm going with She Said.
So I'm gonna go against you guys on this one. I'm actually gonna say Sloop John B. Riley, you're not gonna like me saying this, but She Said is not a favorite of mine on this album. It hasn't. I like it enough where like I'm not gonna skip it. Like it's fine, but I don't know. It just hasn't really clicked with me. I find it a little annoying at times. Actually, I'm not a huge fan of like the. She said, you know what I said? I said, no, you're wrong. When I was a boy, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of that part, but I like Sloop John B. I wouldn't say, again, I don't think Sloop John B necessarily fits on Pet Sounds. But I think it's really well arranged and produced. It's, again, I've said this before, but it really shows Brian's talent as a producer and arranger. Like you listen to the original version of this song, like the folk version with the Kingston Trio, and then you listen to this, and it's just a masterpiece of work. And while I think a lot of the songs on Revolver would beat Sloop John B for me, but versus She Said, I'm gonna go with Sloop John B. So
She Said is annoying to you? That's a new one.
I won't say not annoying, but I can find it a little grating at times. I don't know.
I think that's like the best part of the song, but
I can see that.
I
can see why you don't like this one. I absolutely can.
You don't like
Rain,
right?
I'm not a huge fan of Rain either, which I think I told you.
Oh, I love Rain.
It's fine, but
it's a similar style song. I can totally see why you don't like this one. I disagree, but I can totally see why you don't like it.
Yeah.
Justin?
Two very different songs. So She Said, I really like this song. Like Riley said, like the guitars are like getting turned up a little bit more here. You're seeing like on this album, especially like the guitars are really more in your face. I think because also they were experimenting more with like close miking the amps versus having the mics like 6 or 8 feet back, so you can kind of get that more in your face sound, which I really like. I really like that section Riley also mentioned where that guitar echoes the vocal. It's probably one of the best parts of the song. Loved Lennon's vocal on it. It's so great. Sloop John B. It's just absolutely fantastic arrangement that Brian came up with for such a simple song. It was a traditional folk song, but just the instruments that he used and the way he used them, it was just unbelievable that it sounded like that. And although it doesn't really fit on Pet Sounds, it is one of the boys' best tracks, I would say. And with that in mind, I'm going to go with Sloop John B.
Yeah, they're two different. They're literally comparing apples and oranges. Shout out, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, right down my alley with that kind of driving, arpeggiating guitar riff. Like that's why I like a lot of the Oasis tracks. I could totally see how this one inspired a lot of those Brit poppy sounds.
Didn't Oasis themselves even say their favorite like Beatles era is like post Help and pre Sgt. Pepper? So that's like literally right here.
Yeah, and there's my favorite era, and I think that and I can really hear a lot of like alt rock in this track. And I know Jake, you're not a huge fan of that kind of style. I mean, I know you like a good amount of songs, but I know it's not your favorite, right?
Yeah. Not my favorite. Like there's songs I like, and there's bands that I like enough, but like there's not too many where I'm like crazy about them. So
yeah, like Supersonic by Oasis. Supersonic by Oasis, I absolutely hear this in that. And I don't know.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, maybe that's why I like this song a lot, because I love 90s alt rock.
Yeah. All right. That's a whole other rabbit hole.
That's all. Yeah.
God Only Knows versus Good Day Sunshine. I know I said God Only Knows is one of my lesser favorites on this album and that I still enjoy it. So I'm gonna pick God Only Knows. But Good Day Sunshine is a very great song too. Um, this is like their most sunshiny pop song, I think. And I really enjoy it. It is kind of that sweet spot with McCartney where it's not like overly corny, but also not like Eleanor Rigby dead freaking serious kind of thing. So I really like this one, but it's going against God Only Knows, so it's going to be God Only Knows.
Yeah, okay. Well, this is easy for me. We have arguably the greatest song of all time versus a nice piece of McCartney fluff. God Only Knows easily. I've said all I need to say about God Only Knows. I like Good Day Sunshine, but it's a bit on the fluffy side. It is. It's a little on the sappier side. Burns my feet as they touch the ground. It's just like one of those songs that you imagine Paul kind of singing with his on his face, kind of like doing that thing with his head. And I like it for what it is, but compared to God Only Knows, yeah, no, easily God Only Knows, easily.
Yeah, I mean, no contest for me either. Easily God Only Knows. I mean, I think I said it is my favorite Beach Boys song. Good Day Sunshine, like it's a nice song by Paul. I like the melody. It's definitely catchy and fun, but I wouldn't say it's one of his strongest compositions from this period, though. I do think it sounds a little simplistic to me. And again, there's plenty of simple songs that I like a lot, but I just feel like there's not too much unexpected stuff going on in this song. Like there's like certain songs by Paul, like Martha, My Dear, like there's like some big chord change or some big key change where it's like, oh man, this song I feel like doesn't really have that moment for me. So I like it, but yeah, against God Only Knows, it's no contest. God Only Knows.
Yeah, Good Day Sunshine is a really simple, has the piano. Um, yeah, I would agree with you guys that it is one of McCartney's weaker songs from this period. I'm actually more of a fan of Lennon's songs from this period, anyways. But yeah, and God Only Knows is one of the best pop songs written ever. So I'm gonna have to go with God Only Knows. Just the vocals on that are phenomenal from Carl. And the ending section with Bruce, Carl, and Brian is just unbelievable. So God only knows.
Yeah, that whole oh my God, what's that called? That whole musical Around. The fact that they're
Round,
doing
yeah.
Around
At
in
the
a
end,
pop
yeah,
song
yeah.
is honestly impressive because I don't think a
Yeah.
lot of bands can get away with it.
Yeah.
And that is one of my favorite Bruce vocals is the God only knows what I'll be. I know I'm
Yeah.
making fun of him, but I love that part.
That's what he sounded like on the track. Yeah.
Voice,
God
Yeah.
only
his
knows.
voice works on this song because sometimes his lyrics, I mean, his vocals could be a little too
They
sappy.
stick out. They stick
Yeah,
out.
they
Yeah.
definitely stick out, but I do like his part in California Girls too, where it's like, I wish they all could be California.
It's like this a decent Bruce impression there, Riley. No, I was gonna say that too. I feel like Bruce's vocals on like the outros of those songs, both those songs it works really well. So
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of that stupid Summer Dreams movie, which they show Mike singing on God Only Knows. He's not even on God Only Knows. I mean, how can you miss basic stuff like that?
I think that might be a production like cost thing. Might not have gone out.
Yes. I mean,
They
that
couldn't
whole,
get David Marks in there, so like,
well, I mean, I know you're not gonna let me say this, but like, it's kind of easy sometimes to exclude David Marks and just not have to cast another actor.
no, you're right.
I'm not saying we should write David Marks out of the band system. I'm just saying it's easy for like, if we're looking at it from a movie perspective, we're trying to save some money on the budget.
Yeah.
Just cut him out and just say, okay, he never did.
Oh, I get it. I'll stand up for David Marks every day of the week, but I totally get it.
No, yeah, but that whole movie was just stupid. That movie made it look like Dennis did nothing. Like literally nothing. Like it was dumb. Anyway.
I think we should do a movies episode.
Yes,
I think
we should. That's what I was gonna say, because I can rant about that movie for like an hour. Like it's so
I can rant about how the other one that came out in the 90s or like early 2000s, like the first half is so
Well,
good.
that
The
was a
first
bad
half
one.
was so good. I love that first half. And then you get to the
Yeah.
second half and then it's shit.
Van Dyke Park's almost
It's like a train falling down a
His name
track.
was Samuel Pierce in the movie. All right.
but if
all
you
right.
read the lips, it still says Van Dyke if you read the lips carefully.
Yeah. All right. I do want to talk. We should totally do a movies episode.
I have some
All right. I
catching
know
up.
there's an answer versus Andrew Bird Can Sing. I'm going Andrew Bird Can Sing. I know there's an answer, and I might be shitting on some people here. I prefer it to Hang On to Your Ego. But I think it's a really fun track. I think there's a lot of great production stuff on it, but Andrew Bird Can Sing is such a fucking rocker. You have two different guitar parts going on at the same time with playing different notes. It's so damn cool. I remember learning that one on guitar. I was like, hold on. And then I checked back I was reading tabs at the time. And I was like, there's another thing going on, and there's a lot of cool stuff going on. Andrew Bird Can Sing. I know John Lennon isn't a huge fan of this one. I'm a big John guy, but I think this is such a good track. I love it. I think the vocals are awesome. I think the chord progression's awesome. The guitar line is so damn cool. Everything about it I love. It's right down my alley, so I'm picking that over. I know there's an answer.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I know there's an answer. It's probably like one of my least favorite on Pet Sounds. It's all right. I like it in the context of the record. I probably wouldn't choose to put it on. And Your Bird Can Sing, one of John's best songs. Everything about it. The guitar, the lyrics, the harmony with McCartney. It's just so tight. I love it because it's tight. It's like, it's in and out in 2 minutes, when your bird is broken, will it put you down? I love that lyric. I don't know why he hated this song. I'll never understand it. I think it's a brilliant song. And it was even used on the third season of their cartoon. That's how damn good it was. But yeah, I love And Your Bird Can Sing. Love that song. Absolutely.
Yeah. I know. I feel like John hates a lot of his songs, and a lot of times I honestly kind of get his point of view with some of them. But how could you hate this one?
This one I'll never like. Yeah, some of them I get. Like I get why he didn't like what's that one? What's the one on Run for Your Life? Like I get why he didn't like that song, but I will never understand how he didn't like this one.
This one is so impressive and like complex in so many different ways, and it's like I can't see any flaws with this one. This one might be my favorite from Revolver.
Oh yeah, honestly, I love this song. This easy for me. This one was hands down easy.
Yeah, easily. And Your Bird Can Sing for me too. This song is just freaking awesome. I mean, it's such an awesome riff. I love that part you mentioned too, Matt, though. When your bird is broken, like that whole melody is just so good. Yeah, this song, it's like such high energy and it just never comes down. It's just an incredible track. Also, I'm a big fan. I've mentioned this before. I'm a big fan of power pop groups like the Raspberries and Cheap Trick, and this song has been cited as like a major influence on that genre. Like it's pretty much like the kind of sound that those bands aimed for, like with really catchy melodies and a driving guitar riff. So I absolutely love this song. One of my favorites on Revolver for sure. I know there is an answer. I'm with you, Matt. It's one of my lesser tracks on Pet Sounds. I like it enough. It's fine. I definitely wouldn't skip it. I do like the chorus, I guess, melody, like I know there's an answer, I know, but I had to find it by myself. I like that. But yeah, of the Pet Sounds tracks, I would definitely rank it more towards the bottom. So this is no contest for me. And Your Bird Can Sing by a mile.
And Your Bird Can Sing, that's the first song on side 2, right?
No, the first song on side 2 is Good Day Sunshine.
Oh, Good Day. Okay. Yeah, and Your Bird Can Sing. I really love that guitar line that you guys mentioned. It's kind of a harmonized two-part line. Yeah, I really love John's vocal. This is a really great composition. I felt like this was the first track on side 2 because it kind of just like takes off as soon as it starts, kind of thing.
It should have been the first one.
Feeling. And with I know there's an answer. I really like this one as well. It has that nice organ. Al sings lead vocal on this song, I believe. And there's some cool parts with Mike, and where it kind of breaks down a little bit. But I'm gonna have to go with Andrew Bird Can Sing. I think it's just a stronger song.
And there's another one that was not on the U.S. Revolver.
Yeah,
crazy. By the way, that's insane.
Yeah, it was on yesterday and today. I think.
Yesterday and today, yeah. That was Capitol Records for you.
You mean this thing?
Yeah, the Butcher cover. Now that
Butcher cover.
If you have a vinyl pressing of that, that's worth good money because it was only on the market for like 2 days. I think it's so funny that Capitol actually approved that, said this is fine, and then they saw it in the shelves like, oh no, we have to take this. They spent all that money, and then they're like, no, and like nobody said anything like when it was like they just look at them. I just think that's so funny.
Yeah, they took the photo and everything. Yeah,
the photo and everything. They looked at the mock-up. Oh yeah, this is fine. Send it to retail. They see it in the store. They're like, oh no, take this back. They actually said that was the only Beatles LP they ever lost money on because they had to spend so much money to take it back.
All right, Here Today versus For No One. Oh my, this is tough because For No One is one of my favorite McCartney songs. I think this is one where, again, it's that perfect balance for me where it's not too syrupy, but it's also and it's about a breakup, or I guess kind of splitting away. And I think the lyrics are some of the McCartney's best ever. But Here Today has the production and the whole breakdown that happens in the middle of the song is so damn cool. It has one of Mike's better vocals. I think for a while I had Here Today winning. I'm gonna call this one a tie. just because of how much I really like Here Today. That breakdown makes the song for me, but that whole the dynamics on this one are great. So it's gonna be a tie.
Yeah, I said a tie as well. For No One, beautiful song, great lyrics. I think my favorite part is like, and in her eyes you see nothing, no sign of love behind the tears cried for no one. A love that should have lasted years. I mean, it's just haunting, absolutely haunting. Like this is a song that like if you say, oh, Paul McCartney can't write lyrics, this is a good example of that he can. Here Today, one of Mike's best vocals. Another one too that's, I hate it, kind of similar, like thematically they're similar, like I hate to be a downer, but I'm the guy you left before you found her. Love is Here Today, Then It's Gone. Beautiful song, great, one of Mike's best vocals, and another song that's just very haunting with the lyrics, and like you said, the breakdown is amazing, Riley. So yeah, definitely a tie for me. Both amazing songs.
So this is a really interesting matchup. Two really great songs. I'm gonna go with For No One just because I think it's one of Paul's strongest songs from this period. I absolutely love it. Such a haunting and moving song, both like melodically and lyrically. I agree with what you said, Matt. This is some of Paul's greatest lyrics for sure. This song really hits hard, like if you're going through a breakup or, just feeling down. And this song is really moving. And that lyric you mentioned, Matt, you totally stole it from me. I was going to mention that exact same lyric. That's my favorite lyric from this song. Just really moving and definitely one of Paul's best. Here Today, this song has actually been really growing on me lately. I think I mentioned on one of our earlier episodes that this is one that like I'll listen to in the context of the album, but like I'm not gonna really come back to it outside of that. Like I wouldn't listen to it by itself. Honestly, I'm at the point now I will listen to it by itself. I really like it a lot. I think it's a great vocal from Mike. I like that lyric too about I'm the guy you left before you found her, however it goes. Yeah, it's just a great song, and but I'm gonna go with For No One just because I think it's one of the strongest songs on this album on Revolver and one of Paul's best. So yeah.
Yeah, I echo all of your thoughts thus far. For No One is a great track. One of Paul's best on this album, I think, actually. And I really like the strings as well, and the acoustic guitar is it's a really great track. Here Today was one of the three tracks that when I originally listened to Pet Sounds the first time, like it automatically hit me.
Mm.
So it was that breakdown that Riley and Matt mentioned, and that kind of makes the song and Mike's vocal, and it just has like a really haunting vibe to it, kind of a bit. I think it's the organ as well too that gives it kind of that haunting vibe. But I'm gonna have to go with Here Today.
I also wanted to quickly mention, but nobody has said it yet, but also that solo on For No One I really love too. I think it's like a horn solo, like
Yeah,
halfway through.
I think
Really
it's
love
a
that.
French horn.
That is so good. Yeah, I love
It
that.
is good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. I just wasn't made for these times, and Dr. Robert. I think I've said before, I don't really care too much about I wasn't made for these times. I enjoy it, especially in the context of the album, but I've never been a huge fan of it. It might be my least favorite track on the album. I know that might be nuts to say. Uh, Gonna get slandered for it. But I do like it better than Dr. Robert. I think Dr. Robert is the only track on Revolver that you can really call filler. Maybe think even Yellow Submarine holds a place in the album, at least for me. I do enjoy it. It's definitely a rocking song, but I think it's pretty simple. I know it's about the doctor or the dentist who gave him LSD for the first time, or George and John. So I do appreciate it for that. I do listen to it. I don't skip it, but it is really the only track I can truly say is filler material. It's like Drive-In, where it's just like, yeah, cool. I don't think it's Drive-In quality. I just
It's
think
a
it's like it has the same place as Drive-In.
It's better than Driving. I get what you're saying. Yeah, I'm going with I Just Wasn't Made for These Times. I actually really like that song. I can really relate to it lyrically. I love the part with the electrotheremin. And I love the part where it's like, I just wasn't made. I just like kind of like does like whatever you call that. Dr. Robert's fine. I like it in the context of the album, but it's definitely not like one of my favorites on Revolver. This is another one that was removed from the American Revolver, and this is the only one that I'm like, yeah, I mean, fine, put it on the other thing. But yeah, I just wasn't made for these times.
I'm gonna go with I Just Wasn't Made for These Times as well. These are some of the best lyrics, in my opinion, the Beach Boys ever did. Some of the best lyrics from this album. Really moving song. I really connect with it. I love the lyric. They say I've got brains, but they ain't doing me no good. I wish they could. I love that line. I also love like the repeating the sometimes I feel very sad. Like it's such a simplistic lyric, but like it
Yeah.
comes across so genuine, you know, like you don't have to do all this complex wordplay to get across emotion and feeling. And this song really shows that. I really love it a lot. Dr. Robert, I can remember I used to not really care for that track. It used to be a skip for me, but honestly, I like it quite a bit now. I prefer it over She Said for sure. I think it's catchy. I like the part like the he's the man like when Paul comes in. I think it
Yeah.
is. Also that middle section with the well, you're doing fine or whatever that is. I love that too. So I do like Dr. Robert quite a bit, but I just wasn't made for these times really moves me more like emotionally. So I'm gonna go with I just wasn't made for these times.
Yeah, Dr. Robert is a really fun track. I really like when, well, like Jake mentioned, when Paul comes in on the harmony there, kind of amps up the energy a bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just wasn't made for these times was the third track that really, really hit me when I first listened to Pet Sounds, like automatically. I kind of knew this track already because it's in the American Band video, which I first saw before I even heard any of their music. Um, but like you guys mentioned it, the lyric is just so it can relate to anybody. Like I think a lot of people in this world have gone through those sort of feelings before, so a lot of people would relate to this track because of that. And also the electrotheremin, like Matt mentioned, is just unbelievable at this time. Like this was pretty good vibrations even. So to hear that sound on a track and a pop track, it would have been absolutely nuts back then. But yeah, it's just a really, really, really great melancholic track. I'm gonna have to go with this. I just wasn't made for these times. Yeah.
All right. Pet Sounds versus I Want to Tell You. Uh, all right. I really like Pet Sounds and I really like I Want to Tell You. Um, I think this is one of George's better tracks. In fact, I think this might be his best from this 65, 66 era. I really like that guitar riff. I really like the vocal delivery. I like everything about this song. Um, Pet Sounds. I've always kind of been his biggest defender. I think it's one of my favorites off the Pet Sounds album, although I guess a lot of the tracks on there are my favorites from the album, but this one has always just been like super uplifting for me. And then it's like that big calm before the storm that's Caroline No. So choosing between these two is going to be hard, but I'm gonna have to go with I Want to Tell You by a hair, just because I feel like I listen to this one more. This is one of my favorite tracks off Revolver. Um, and it's definitely one of my favorite George songs, period. At least from the band when he was with them. I Want to Tell You.
Okay. Well, this isn't hard for me at all. I want to tell you. I think I've made my thoughts about the instrumentals known already, so I'm not gonna say that again. I want to tell you, I love the way it fades in. I do love the lyrics. I love the harmonies too. And then let me look at the list. There's one lyric I really love. I haven't heard the song in a while, but yeah, like Pet Sounds is like the weakest song on Pet Sounds. Like, let's be honest. At least for me.
Yeah,
I think most people would agree with me on that.
Yeah.
This is my favorite part. I want to tell you I feel hung up, but I don't know why. I don't mind. I could wait forever. I've got time. I think that's a great lyric. But yeah, easily. I want to tell you.
This one isn't particularly close for me either. I Want to Tell You. I think this is a really great George song. In terms of my favorite from like this period for George, I feel like it's between this and If I Needed Someone, which I love just as much, honestly. That's got a great riff as well. But yeah, I Want to Tell You, amazing song. I love that lyric too, Matt. And I also love like the sound of the piano on this track. It sounds almost like off key or like out of tune. Like when it comes in, like the after
That
the
one chord. Yeah.
still hung up and I don't know why. And then it sounds very like off, but like I really like that a lot. It gives the track a very like interesting vibe, and I like that a lot. I also love the bridge section on this song as well, like the part where it's like it's only me, it's not my mind. I love that part too. So this is a great song, one of my favorite songs by George that he did with the Beatles. So I Want to Tell You easily. Oh, and for Pet Sounds, Riley, it has grown on me. I will say that. I do like that little riff that you've mentioned before, like the down, 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 down. It's grown on me, but it's still my least favorite track on Pet Sounds. But it's nice enough.
That's fair.
Yeah, I want to tell you, I really like that guitar riff that goes through it. I think that's a Strat. They had those Sonic Blue Strats.
Yeah, they just got the Sonic Blue ones that they just got.
Yeah. and it's like super compressed too. It's really really great sound. Um, yeah, this is one of George's best tracks around this period, I would say as well. I really like that off key that piano chord. I don't even know what that is that he uses, like that that one section. Um, and their harmonies are great on this too. There's harmonies from all three of them on it. Pet Sounds, the instrumental track. This was the first song that was recorded for Pet Sounds, I believe, for a James Bond movie. That was the original premise of it. I really like this track in the fact that it has a lot of like cool percussion going on in the background, and you just have like a wide variety of instruments and like a lot of weird sounds. And as a musician, I don't know, like I'm kind of a tech, like I'm really into tech and really into recording and sound and stuff. And I think from that perspective, I really appreciate this song. So I'm gonna have to go be the odd man out and say Pet Sounds. I'm sorry.
You don't have to be. I I I was thinking here. I was thinking of the next song, "Got to Get You Into My Life." That has the
That's Earth, Wind, and
guitar riff
Fire.
that sounds like Day Tripper. It's like right before it's gotta get you into my
Yeah.
life.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the next one. And my thoughts on this are the same as I said before, because I do confuse "Good Say Sunshine" and "Got to Get You in My Life." I like both of them pretty equally. They're both very Paul songs, but they do kind of hit that sweet spot with me, where it's not like too syrupy or anything. And I do really like the horns on this one. I think the production kind of saves those syrupy songs for me. So I do like this one, but Caroline No is my top three favorite Beach Boys songs. I'm going Caroline No every day. So.
Yeah, I really enjoy "Got to Get You Into My Life." I like you said the horns. The horns really help lift up, and I think this is about marijuana, right? Pretty sure it's about weed.
Yeah, it
Um,
is. Yeah.
yeah, I do like the horns. It's kind of a little funky vibe. I think it works well, but yeah, Caroline No is just a stunning, haunting, moving song. So I voted for Caroline No, but I still do really like "Got to Get You Into My Life."
I also really like "Got to Get You Into My Life." I think it's got great horns on it, and I think it's really great melodically. Definitely a strong song from Paul. But Caroline No for me as well. This is another one of my all-time favorite Beach Boys songs. Just such a haunting song, and the lyrics are so good. I love the line. It's so sad to watch a sweet thing die. Like it's just very moving. And again, another one of those songs where like if you've gone through a breakup or just like a lost love, you can really connect with the lyrics. I think this song is just gorgeous, and I think it's a great way to close out Pet Sound. So easily Caroline No for me, but I do really like "Got to Get You Into My Life" as well.
Yeah, got to get you into my life. I really like that guitar riff that Riley mentioned. That's a really cool sound to it too. Uh, the melody is just unbelievable. Um, his vocal is great on that track. Although Caroline O is one of my favorite Beach Boys songs, Brian's vocal on that is just unbelievable. Like it's just so emotive, and I think a lot of people, like as with the other song I mentioned there, I just wasn't made for these times. A lot of people could relate to this kind of like love lost kind of story. Like we've all had like a crush on a girl, and then we years later we saw her, and then we wondered where did that go? Where did that feeling go? Kind of thing. Um, I'm gonna have to go with Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So that's where Pet Sounds ends, but there's also Tomorrow Never Knows, which is I think is a masterpiece of like psychedelic rock. It's so ahead of its time. The drum they still can't figure out how Ringo got the drum sound on it. Um, Absolutely incredible track. This is one of those tracks on Revolver. When I first heard that in high school, I was like, I honestly wasn't sure if I really liked it or not. I was just so like surprised at what I heard because I didn't think it was bad. It wasn't like Revolution 9 where I'm like, yeah, this is shit. It's it's like, holy, what am I listening to kind of thing. And the vocals are incredible. It is such a stunning song, and it's a really cool way to end this middle period between Help in that Beatlemania days and Sergeant Pepper's and kind of where they get to that studio masterpieces. So, do you guys have any thoughts on Tomorrow Never Knows?
Yeah, I think it's really cool too. It's a really like it's so ahead of its time. I mean, 1966. This sounds like it could have been recorded yesterday, honestly. The use of the tape loops, especially I think like that, like almost it's like that laughing. I think that's Paul McCartney laughing, right? They sped it up really fast, like that. The
Like the
first
seagull sound? Yeah.
The
Yeah.
sequel sound. The very first, okay, this is gonna sound weird, but the very first time I ever heard this song was on one of those, like, do you guys remember when YouTube used to do those like recut trailer things? Like they took a movie and they would like recut the trailer to make it, like they had one for Mary Poppins and they made it like into a horror movie. It was a
Oh,
recut trailer of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory as like Wonka drug baron, and they used this song and they segued it with another song that was like a more modern song. It actually fit really well, and that was the first time I'd ever heard "Tomorrow Never Knows." But yeah, it's a really cool piece, and I think it's a great way to end Revolver. It's a really, I mean, it's just so ahead of its time. It's unreal.
yeah. I mean, my thoughts on this song, my feelings on it are kind of similar to, I think, what Riley said about one of the songs we were talking about earlier. Like, I can appreciate it more than I actually enjoy it. Like, I don't listen to this one too often. I think the effects are really cool, like that, like you mentioned, like that high pitched laughing, like the seagull sound, like that. That's the part that I remember the most from this song for sure. It's just not. I don't have too many comments on it, honestly. I can see how it was influential for sure. You can definitely like the experimentation on it. It's really cool to hear, but it just doesn't do too much for me personally. But obviously, a song that was very ahead of its time and very influential on a lot of bands. So I'm just not a huge fan of it.
That's
This is
fair.
a really cool track for me. As I said before, like with my tech kind of brain and really being interested in recording, this just hits all bars for me. And I love Ringo's drum sound on it. I think I don't know if he put it through two Fairchild compressors, but it's like super compressed and like in your face. You can barely like hear the room in it. It's just like really close. And the tape loops, it's unbelievable tech for 1966 to put this all together. Like it would have taken so much time to put all these tape loops together and to splice everything. Like to it was what, like 4 track that they recorded this on. So
Yeah, I
it's
think
just
so.
unbelievable the amount of work that went into this, and I can appreciate that definitely.
Yeah, I think this was one of my top played songs in 2019. Long time ago. Shit. But yeah, I really love this one. But it's a technical. I don't want to say masterpiece because I feel like maybe it's not like a perfect song. I don't think it's like, but it is super mind blowing and super ahead
Yeah,
of its time.
yeah,
Um, but before we wrap up 66, I do want to do one matchup of singles, and I might be alone on this, but Rain versus Good Vibrations. I'm gonna pick Rain. I think Good Vibrations is objectively the better song. I think there's a lot more going on with it. I think that's a technical masterpiece, how it was put
yeah.
together, and just the way a song could be reshaped, how a song could really be structured in modern pop music. And I think it deserves the attention, but I listen to Rain a hell of a lot more. So
Well, you're also forgetting Paperback Writer. That was the flip side, but Rain is better. I agree.
I love Paperback Writer,
Writer's good
but
though.
I love Rain.
I would say I think that if I'm not mistaken, the closing of Paperback Writer inspired the opening of the Monkees' Last Train to Clarksville. Because I think Boyce and Hart were listening to the end of it,
Mhm.
and then they wrote that as the opening chorus, Last Train to Clarksville. So that's pretty cool. There's another Monkees Beatles connection. I will say this: I love Good Vibrations, but I think I may have listened to it too much over the years. That it's kind of like I still like it a lot, but I played it so much over the years. I think it's kind of it's worn out a little bit on me. Whereas Rain is one of those songs that every time I listen to it, I'm just blown away by it. So I'm actually gonna choose Rain just because, and I love Good Vibrations, I do, but just because I think I've just played it too much.
I think the package themselves, like I think Good Vibrations was backed with Let's Go Away for a while, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm gonna pick those two together. But as in terms of which song I play more, Rain, I agree the same thing, same exact thing. I think Good Vibrations is the better song, and I think if I were like listening to it last year or maybe the year before, I might put it better than Rain. But Rain has kind of been timeless for me. I really like the loops on it. I think there's a backwards vocals on there that's pretty cool, and I know a lot of people back then try to decode what they were trying to say. Um, but it is a really cool song, and I definitely listen to it more than Good Vibrations. Good Vibrations, I'm just kind of getting tired of. It doesn't have a lot of staying power, but I think I also listen to the shit out of that. Like there's a period I think where that was like I listened to that song maybe like 50 times in 1 month. Um, I'd have to really go back and do the stats on that because I think I have it somewhere. I think I have a screenshot or something. But yeah, Rain.
For me, easily Good Vibrations. I think I've mentioned this before too, but I'm not the biggest fan of Rain. It's another one of those songs where I think I can appreciate it more than I actually enjoy it. Again, obviously another very influential track. I feel like on like Brit pop and just it's a very ahead of its time for sure. Great drumming on it from Ringo. But Good Vibrations. Again, I've listened to it probably too much as well, but I just think it's a masterpiece of production and arrangement and just song structure, and I just think it's fantastic. Now, if we're talking Good Vibrations versus Paperback Writer, that's quite a bit closer for me because I freaking love Paperback Writer. I think it's got an awesome riff. Another one of those like kind of like I feel like one of those songs that really influenced power pop for sure. Like it's got such a great riff, great energy. I like that part at the end. I think you were referring to Matt, like the paperback writer. I love that as well. This song just rocks so hard. One of my favorite Beatles rockers. So that's a lot closer. I'm gonna say Good Vibrations, but if you ask me on another day, I might say it's a tie. So, but Good Vibrations for now.
Yeah, I really like both these tracks. Rain, as you guys mentioned, it's kind of like a Britpop kind of feel to it. I really like Britpop as well too. Uh, I really like Lennon's vocal on this. His vocals at the time, like phenomenal. But Good Vibrations, this is just like an absolute masterpiece of technical like tape splicing and like just recording multiple sections at different times. It was just unheard of in pop music, and this is probably one of the Beach Boys' best tracks too, as well. So with that in mind, I'm gonna go with Good Vibrations.
So we'll just say which one you prefer.
All right, go ahead.
All right. So for me, it was really damn close. This is my favorite Beatles album, sans Rubber Soul, but even with that, I kind of go back and forth on which one I like better. I'm gonna go Pet Sounds, but it's super damn close. It's so damn close. If Revolver had Rain, it might go Revolver, but it doesn't. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna go Pet Sounds. It is in many aspects the greatest album of all time. I do think it's the greatest produced album of all time. I'm a big Pink Floyd fan, as you can kind of see right here, but and Dark Side I think is the best album ever made. But like I think Pet Sounds production is otherworldly and it deserves all the recognition in the world. So I'm going Pet Sounds.
That's such a boomer take. I'm just kidding though.
Fuck you.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. A lot of people would probably agree with you on that. For me, I'm gonna call this a tie because they're both my favorites from each group. I really, really love both of these albums. I think these would both be like Desert Island discs or whatever the hell they call them. But yeah, for a tie for me, I love both Revolver. I love both Pet Sounds. I think they're both masterpieces, and they both helped push popular music to higher heights.
For me, I mean, it's definitely close, but looking at the track list, I am gonna go Pet Sounds, just because like so many of my favorite Beach Boys songs are on this album. Like it's just packed. I mean, wouldn't it be nice? Don't Talk. God Only Knows. I'm Waiting for the Day. I Just Wasn't Made for These Times. And Caroline No, all on the same album. I mean, I gotta go Pet Sounds. But again, I could also say for Revolver, I mean, a lot of my favorite Beatles songs are on there as well with Eleanor Rigby, I'm Only Sleeping, Here, There, Everywhere, Andrew Bird Can Sing, For No One, I Want to Tell You. So it's close. I think the reason I give Pet Sounds the edge, besides the fact that like some of my all-time favorite Beach Boy songs are on it, there's the lower tracks on there for me I like more than some of the lesser tracks on Revolver. I would say like Taxman, like I'm not crazy about, and Tomorrow Never, well, yeah, Tomorrow Never Knows I'm not crazy about, and Yellow Submarine's all right. She Said I'm not too nuts about either. So I'm gonna go Pet Sounds, but they're both really great albums for sure.
That's such a boomer take.
No, I was just saying it's a boomer take because it's like Dark Side of the Moon is a great album, but it's like when you think about it, it's like, oh, it's like old white guys that love that record.
Have you listened to Dark Side of the Moon?
Oh, it's a great album. I know it's a great album.
All right.
I know I'm not disagreeing with you, but what I'm saying, I'm just joking because like,
No, I know.
what's popular to say is a great album now? I don't know.
Dark Side of the Moon.
No. I mean, like, but among young people, Carly
Oh,
Rae.
never mind by Nirvana.
Butchered Poets Department or whatever.
Oh my God.
Carly Rae Jepsen's Emotion. I know is a big
Oh, fuck you guys.
Taylor Swift's Red. Yeah.
Justin, save us.
For me, this is really hard because I really like this album a lot. This is a really cool album, and I think it's one of the Beatles' best. But at the same time, this album is probably one of the best in pop music. Um, it's probably one of the Beach Boys' best as well too. I like this Underneath Sunflower, so I'm gonna have to go with this album. This album just hits all the right spots for me. Pretty much every track on here I absolutely love. Maybe I Know There's an Answer is kind of a weaker one for me, but every other track like I absolutely adore. And I've been listening to this album for over 30 years, so it has definitely has staying power.
Oh, yeah.
One other thing I wanted to mention that I didn't mention also when I was comparing them to is um Pet Sounds moves me like emotionally. Like the tracks, like the lyrics and like the it just really moves me. Whereas with Revolver, like I like a lot of the songs a lot. And like there are songs that do like move me emotionally on there, specifically like For No One for sure is one. Eleanor Rigby moves me, but not in the same sense as a lot of those Pet Sounds tracks, especially like Caroline No and I Just Wasn't Made for These Times, God Only Knows. So I think the emotional impact of it also plays a role for me too. Like I don't think if you look at the whole Beatles discography, I don't think they have an album that is like it consistently moves me in the way that Pet Sounds does. So
Yeah.
that's why I hold this album to really high esteem.
I think Pet Sounds is incredibly more cohesive than Revolver. I think that matters in an album, and not that the Beatles can't make cohesive albums because they did. I think Abbey Road is very cohesive, but like for me, for an album to be truly like objectively great, it has to be cohesive, and that's why I like a lot of Pink Floyd albums. Is because like besides all the musical stuff, which I absolutely love, Dark Side is a super cohesive album. Wish You Were
Oh,
Here is super cohesive. Pretty much all the big four Pink Floyd albums are cohesive. And that's why I like Today and Holland also. It's like those albums are very cohesive in sound and what you expect. Like one track goes from one to the next
It's like
and so
seamless. Yeah,
seamlessly.
yeah, yeah.
And that's why I like Today. That's why I like Holland. And that's why I like Pet Sounds. And as much as I love the Beatles, I think part of the reason why Pet Sounds has the staying power for me over Revolver is that cohesiveness. I can come back to it for a full listen. And Revolver, like I'll listen to that beginning to end, but most of the time I'm just cherry picking some of my favorite tracks. And
Counterpoint. I actually like some albums sometimes that kind of like jump around with genres.
yeah, I like a lot of those albums too. That's why I like All Summer Long, honestly. Like I can listen to that beginning to end, and usually I do, but like I'll admit it's pretty spotty. Um and I feel like not all of it is really consistent. I feel like songs like Do You Remember and Drive-In kind of break the flow a little bit. Not
It's
that
an
Drive-In
enjoyable listen though.
bit.
Yeah.
Yes, but and you're probably gonna hate me for saying this, but I would say that Do You Remember Driving are worse than anything on Revolver.
Yeah. Oh my God, absolutely.
I'm just saying, so like Revolver for me is like one of those albums that like yes, maybe it isn't super cohesive, but I actually like that it has all the different styles. I think it actually works really good.
Yeah.
Another album that I would say is like that, Princess Sign of the Times. It has a
Yeah.
bunch of styles,
It
but
jumps,
it works
It-
so
Yeah.
great, you know.
And I feel like in some way it kind of makes it cohesive, the fact that it's not like there's different styles being presented here. That's why I really like London Calling as an album. I
Mhm.
think it's cohesive in the sense that there's so many different styles on it that they're trying to do, but at the same time it's inherently a Clash album. It's very Clash. It got a lot of that kind of style and swag that the Clash had is presented on all the different styles they did. But for an album like 36 minutes that I'm going to listen to beginning to end, Pet Sounds is a freaking journey. Each
Oh
song
yeah.
seamlessly connects to the next, and it's so emotional. It's very sad. But that's kind of what makes it have that staying power for me compared to Revolver, which is arguably my favorite Beatles album. But I'm not getting that same cohesiveness where it's like an emotional journey. It's like this song has this kind of style, this song has this kind of style, kind of thing.
Yes, but is it as cohesive as Taylor Swift's 1989? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Tortured Poets Department.
One last thing I want to say, and then we'll move on to the next one, is another album that I think kind of works with like the different styles. Hunky Dory is kind of like that too, where it has like, Bowie's trying like a lot. That's why it's my favorite one of my favorite Bowie albums. Like because
Yeah.
as like, you kind of have like the more Baroque stuff, but then you have like the more harder rock stuff, like what's that one song, Queen Bitch. But then
Queen
you also
Bitch.
have like the more folky stuff like Andy Warhol and Song for Bob Dylan. And for me, it all works really well.
And there's another album on here that kind of is similar to Revolver in that sense, and that's the White Album. But we'll get to
Yeah.
that.
I was gonna.
The White Album, I still think is my hot take. I still think it's just too long. I think if you trimmed it down, you have something really brilliant. But as it is, it's just too long.
Oh, we'll talk about the White Album. 'Cause
yeah,
I
we'll talk
fucking
about
love
that
the
one.
White
Though,
Album.
there.
All right, so yeah, 1966. I think it's the Beach Boys. I think Pet Sounds and Good Vibrations for all of that released in a year is kind of a there's not a bad track they really released this year. There was all hits, no misses. This is an unbelievable year for the band, and I can totally see why. Even though Pet Sounds commercially didn't do fantastic compared to some of their other stuff, I can see why critics were really digging into the Brian Wilson's a genius. Then you kind of get to that Derek Taylor report on him, but you can really see why Smile was this big like anticipation
Yeah.
because this was an incredible year for Brian Wilson and the band. So
Didn't do well here, but in the UK it did well. And for what it's worth, in the UK, the readers of Enemy magazine even voted the Beach Boys as the best group of the year over the Beatles. I agree.
Yeah.
66 belongs to
and
the
I
Beatles.
agree.
But the Beatles still were doing great stuff in 66.
Oh yeah,
They were no slouching, but there were no slouches. But the Beach
the difference is, and I think this is where it really makes the difference for for me personally, when the Beatles really took over. Brian Wilson stopped touring late 64, early 65 for the most part. The Beatles were still touring a lot until the end of 66.
Yeah.
And that's when shit hit the fan. And for me personally, this is where it's gonna be pretty much all Beatles. So once they stopped touring and they really focused on making albums and songwriting, it's this game.
No, for me, 66. I'm going to give the slight edge to the Beach Boys for the reasons that we kind of talked about. I mean, Pet Sounds, I mean, it's a phenomenal album. And yeah, you can see why critics were raving about them and why it was such a big deal and so much hype for Smile, like you guys said. Yeah, I mean, but the Beatles, again, like you said, were doing amazing things too. I mean, Revolver is a great album. And I think Rain and Paperback Writer, that single came out too, which I mean, I love Paperback Writers. So great year for both bands. But I'm with you, Riley. This is kind of where it ends for me in terms of like which band wins the year. Because from this point on, I think it's mostly going to be Beatles for me. But
yeah, I'd agree. Other than maybe
Justin, 66 for you.
Yeah, I would say 66 for me as well too. Yeah.
Beach
Just
Boys.
for the reasons you guys already mentioned. Like
Good
there's nothing-
Vibrations and Pet Sounds is literally like a what's the term I was thinking of? It's a shutout. This is like a pitcher throwing a perfect game. No
Yeah,
hits,
yeah.
nope, no balls, just straight strikes. There's no walks. So but next year is going to be so damn different. Sergeant Pepper's versus Smiley Smile. I don't want to go into the details about Smile. That's a separate episode we can do.
Yep.
Eventually, and I don't want to fucking talk about it. It's been talked to fucking death. But so we're just gonna go straight into the album. Heroes and Villains versus Sergeant Pepper's. The more I listen to it, the more I like Heroes and Villains. I love it. Any version. It's kind of the gap between this and Good Vibrations is getting bigger every day for me. I love Heroes and Villains. It's always been a super charming song for me. I don't really care about which version I'm listening to because I just love it. I've listened to like 17-minute versions on YouTube and I still love it. I think Sgt. Pepper's is a fine opener. It's never been my absolute favorite from them though. I like it more as that kind of opening, the book ending song that it is, rather than like a song on its own. I've never listened to it. I don't think it's on my Beatles playlist. I like it. I like that the driving guitars. I really like the loud vocals, but for me, Heroes and Villains is an incredible song, and it's gonna beat Sgt. Pepper's for me.
I would say if it was the Smile version of Heroes and Villains, I'd go for that, but I don't really care for the Smile version as much, so I voted for Sgt. Pepper's because I do think it works great as an opener. I feel like Heroes and Villains, I don't know if this is a hot take, but I feel like it kind of doesn't really fit on Smiley Smile because Smiley Smile for me is mostly like a stripped back record, and this is a bit not really overproduced, but it's a lot of production. I voted for Sgt. Pepper's, but I totally get your point about it does it really work on its own? Not really, especially because it directly segues into With a Little Help from My Friends, which does work on its own and is a great tune. But yeah, so I voted for Peppers because of the reasons. But if it was the Smile version of Heroes and Villains with the cantina margaritas, Keep the Spirit High, I'd probably vote for that because I do really like that version.
For me, yeah, it's interesting, yeah, because like I feel like Sgt. Pepper is the title track. It works much better in the context of the album, by itself, it's not as effective for sure. Heroes and Villains, I'll say, like it's really been growing on me a lot more too recently. I think I'm with Matt on this though. I think I'm gonna say versus the Smiley Smile version, I'm gonna say it's a tie. But if we're talking the Smile Sessions version, I would go Heroes and Villains for sure. I think it's a great song. I love that little middle section on the Smile part. It's a shame that it didn't make the Smiley Smile release, but yeah, I'm gonna say this is a tie for me. I think they're both great songs, and I enjoy them both. So
the next one, with a little help from my friends versus Vegetables. With a little help from my friends, I think this is one of Ringo's best vocals.
Yeah.
I think it's such a Ringo song, and similarly to Yellow Submarine. But I feel like this one even more so than Yellow Submarine. It just totally works for Ringo. It's such a chill, relaxed song, and I like Vegetables. I think it's pretty charming. I think it definitely fits the album really well. I think that it fits Smiley Smile more than it fits Smile. But I'm gonna go with a little help from my friends.
Yeah. I'm just gonna say this now, and I've said this before, but I'll say it again. As I love Smiley Smile, but I do still think that Smiley Smile works better as a whole piece versus like when you kind of take it up piecemeal. With that in mind, with a little help from my friends, I think you said it best. It's one of Ringo's best vocals. It's a really charming song too. It's a song that like always puts a smile on my face. And I just really, really enjoy it. What do you guys think about the Joe Cocker version? I think it's
I don't care for it at all.
all
My
right.
dad loves it.
It's just it's long. It's like 7 minutes long.
It takes out all the melodic charm of the song for me and makes it something just like really long and just boring for me. So yeah, I don't care.
I saw that album at the flea market. I'm like, and I just passed it by.
I like Joe Cocker's voice, but it's just so unnecessary for this song. Like you could have picked any other Beatles song from this album, and you picked a little help from my friends to like go all soulful.
Yeah.
Like, it just makes no sense.
So for me, this is no contest whatsoever. I'm not a fan of any version of Vegetables, honestly. I mean, the Smile Sessions version is definitely better for sure. Like I like that enough, I guess, but not a huge fan of the song, especially the Smiley Smile version. With a little help from my friends, though, one of my favorite Beatles songs, honestly, definitely one of my favorites on Sgt. Pepper. Great vocal from Ringo, and just like a really great melodic song. Like I really enjoy it a lot. I love like the call response vocals, like, how do I feel by the end of the day? Are you sad because you're on your own? Like, I love how it like responds like that. I also love the middle eight, like the, do you need anybody? I need somebody to love. Like, it's such a well-written song. One of my favorite melodies by Lennon McCartney. And I just absolutely love it. So I'm going to go with a little help from my friends by a mile.
Yeah. I love Vegetables, but it's not even close for me.
Shout out to Paul being on Vegetables, though, supposedly.
Yeah, he's on both of these tracks. I I really like Vegetables, but like with the little help from my friends, it sounds weird, but it's such a good second song for an album.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I love the opening too. Billy Shears.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, I don't even want to get into Billy Shears nonsense.
Yeah, let's go down that rabbit hole.
Because we could talk about that. All right, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds versus Fall Breaks Back into Winter. It's not a contest. This is again another like song that's right down my alley with that little guitar riff, and then it goes Lucy. Such a great John song. I'm under the belief that it is about a child's drawing because I feel like John has been pretty honest about what the songs are about, and I feel like, and he's been honest about like which song is about drugs. So I don't think he has any reason to lie about this. That's just my feel about that. But such a great song. It was one of my early favorite. This was my favorite song from that Blue Album compilation. Because like I didn't care for a lot of songs when I was really young, like 8 years old, but this was one I really loved, and it stuck with me. And I like Fall Breaks and Back to Winter. I think it's really interesting song. I think this was fire redone, and it's cool. It's very memorable song from this album, and it fits Smiley Smile, but it's got nothing on Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. So
no, yeah, I agree. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds is a great song. I love too I don't know how they did it, but like the production, like that, like kind of like that twinkling sound, like a doom doom doom. I think they like bounced the track between like two 4-track machines to get it. I love it. It's so psychedelic, and I agree with you. Also, John Lennon, I think sometimes just kind of wrote stuff to just get people thinking. Like that was like, what was that? I'm the Walrus. Like he's like, I just kind of wrote that because people are just gonna write. They're gonna write an essay about what I write anyway. So let me just give them something to talk about. Yeah, it's just, and I love how descriptive the song is. It's like you can close your eyes and see everything. Like picture yourself in a boat on a river, tangerine trees and marmalade skies. The girl with kaleidoscope eyes. Fall Breaks and Back to Winter is very charming. But again, I think it just works better in the context of the album. And I just, again, I'll say one more time. I think that's true for like most of Smiley Smile. So yeah, Sky with Diamonds.
Yeah, no contest for me either. Yeah, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds easily. Yeah, really great lyrics on this one. Some of John's best lyrics. I like that opening line you mentioned, Matt. Picture yourself in a boat, a river. I freaking love that line. And yeah, it's like a very visual song. Like you can imagine the lyrics in your head as you're listening. And great memorable chorus as well, and just great production. It's an amazing song. Fall breaks and back to winter. Like I guess it works fine on Smiley Smile. I'm not a huge fan of it personally, but I mean, if I'm listening to Smiley Smile as a whole, I probably wouldn't skip it, but I'm not nuts about it. So yeah, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds easily.
I'll be honest, I love Brian's instrumentals, and I know Fire was like supposed to be this big grand moment on the album. I don't care for it. I love all of his instrumentals except this one. I actually think it works a lot better as Woody Woodpecker Symphony and not whatever we got on Smile.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was one of my hot takes about Smile. But next one is Getting Better, where she's going bald.
Oh Jesus.
I love Getting Better. It wins. I know there's that lyric about like I used to be cruel to my woman and beat her. I think John wrote I know John actually did that, but I think he wrote that lyric in particular to create controversy. Like there's no way he would like want to put that into a song unless he was trying to be controversial. So minus that, actually that lyric doesn't really bother me too much. Like I said, it's just John being controversial. I really like this one. The guitar is awesome. The dun, 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 getting better all the time. It's such a catchy song.
Yeah, I really do like Getting Better. I don't like that one lyric you mentioned, but other than that, I think it's a great song. It's very catchy. I love the guitar sound on it. I like the harmonies, the vocals. She's Going Bald is funky. It's a really funky song, but Getting Better.
The high pitched vocals.
Yeah. They did the phase shifting is really cool on there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, this is again no contest. Getting Better is easily my favorite of these two. Another just incredible melody. So melodic, and I love the chorus, like getting better all the time. I also love like the getting so much better all the time. I really love that as well. Just a great song. One of the many highlights from Sgt. Pepper for me. She's Going Bald. Yeah, the phase shifting is very cool. Very odd song, but I think it works good in in the context of Smiley Smile. I think it fits the vibe very well. Yeah, this is not one I'm going to listen to outside of the context of the album, and I think it pales in comparison to Getting Better. So easily Getting Better.
I've showed She's Going Bald to some friends, but
never
on my own in my car. I'm like, I want to put on She's Going Bald.
Oh yeah.
It's weird because with a lot of these, I really like the experimentation that they're doing, but it's cool. But it's kind of like Revolution 9, where it's like, yeah, it's a great experiment, but it's not a great song.
Mm-hmm.
I do. It has a lot of charm to it, and I could say that about a lot of Smiley Smile tracks. Fixing a Hole versus Little Pad. For me, it was a lot closer than I thought because I listened to both of them back to back. I'm gonna go Little Pad because I really like the do do do, and then you get like a Hawaiian guitar, and it's such a pretty song. Fixing a Hole is really cool though. I really love it, especially in the context of the album. I think it works better, but I will listen to this one on its own. It's the fixing a hole where the rain gets. It's such like it's very British for the Beatles, which is kind of unusual for a lot of the stuff that they did, because I feel like a lot of the stuff was more Americanized than a lot of their contemporaries. Like I know the Kinks are very British, and I know the Hollies and a lot of those bands, Herman's Hermits, very British. Beatles are really American, but this is their British side coming out, and I really like that because I like a lot of the British music. I'm a big fan of the Kinks and all that, so I do really like the song. But Little Pad is just so charming, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, I was gonna make one point. Like you kind of make a good point though, because I feel like most of the British bands that were really big in America were the more Americanized ones, like the Beatles, the Stones, Zeppelin. Because like I don't think they're that big in America, right? I don't think they really were. Kinks.
Minus their early material where they were very Motown influenced. Not really, no.
But like you look at like the Beatles, the Stones, and Zeppelin, they all sold millions.
And the Who.
And the Who too. They're all very American influenced. Yeah. Anyway. Going back to this, I actually Fixing a Hole is interesting. I like it for what it is, but yeah, Little Pad is just so beautiful. It's so beautiful in its simplicity, Little Pad.
I really like Little Pad, but I'm gonna go Fixing a Hole. I think this is an awesome song. I freaking love it. I know for a lot of people it's like a lesser song on Sergeant Pepper for them, but I think it's freaking great. Very like Baroque. I feel like this is one of those songs you can kind of hear like the Pet Sounds influence a bit, like in the arrangement and the sound they were going for. I love the melody and I love the lyrics. Like fixing a hole where the rain gets in and stops my mind from wandering. Like it's just a great vocal from Paul, great lyric. Yeah, where it will go, and then that descending guitar line, like that down, 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 down. Just an amazing song. I love it so much. And then also, I feel like Riley, you would like that part towards the end where like the guitar really comes in.
Oh
Like
yeah,
that's awesome. I love that too.
Fixing a Hole is actually one of my favorite songs off Sergeant Pepper. It's just
Oh
little.
really? Oh cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad. Yeah, I love it. Of course, also that middle section. If it really doesn't matter, if I'm wrong, I'm right. I'm not
Yeah,
wrong.
it's such a cool part.
It's such a good song. I stand up for it always. But
Yo,
I love.
I think I tried to say that when I talked about it. It is like a really damn good song. I just really like Little Pad.
Yeah, no, Little Pad is such a vibe, and it fits in so well in Smiley Smile. Like
Yeah.
if you want to show somebody a song to kind of represent Smiley Smile,
Yeah.
I feel like that's the song. Like it's so chill. Carl's vocal.
I know Good Vibrations and Heroes and Villains are both on Smiley Smile, but when I showed you that spreadsheet before. I think when I labeled it though, Little Pad's my favorite song off Smiley Smile, but Little Pad is my favorite Smiley Smile song, but it's not my favorite song off Smiley Smile, if that makes any sense.
Oh no,
Yeah,
I get it.
It was recorded explicitly for Smiley Smile, whereas the
Right.
other two were not.
Right. All right. Good Vibrations versus She's Leaving Home. Good Vibrations. But She's Leaving Home is also really good though. Like again, it's like Good Vibrations, I think even less than Heroes and Villains does not belong on Smiley Smile. So I think for which song is better for the album, She's Leaving Home 1000%, but which is a better song, Good Vibrations. But She's Leaving Home, I think this is a McCartney one. And again, I shit on McCartney a lot, but like this era from like 65 to 67 is that sweet spot for me where he's not too syrupy, but but not too like John Lennon-y. Like it's McCartney, and I think the production really saves it in a lot of these ones for me. Like I think production on this one is so beautiful, and then she's had the rest. I forgot the lyric, but the rest of my life, like that part of the song. I think if you guys know what I'm talking about, is so beautiful. So I'm gonna give it to Good Vibrations, but She's Leaving Home is another great song.
I gave this one a tie because I think Good Vibrations is an awesome song. It's legendary, it's so influential, but She's Leaving Home is just so moving. And it's another one that I know is very heavily, but this is probably the song that is the most Pet Sounds influenced on Sergeant Pepper's. It's a really, really beautiful piece, and it's a really moving lyric. So I call this one a tie.
Yeah.
I want to say I read when Brian first heard this song, I think Paul like played this song for him, or maybe he just heard it like listening to it and like it like moved him to tears. Like he was really moved by this song. This is an impossible matchup for me because Good Vibrations is obviously like one of the greatest songs ever, one of the best songs ever done by the Beach Boys. But She's Leaving Home is one of my top 5 all-time favorite Beatles songs, period. Maybe my favorite McCartney Beatles song. That's how much I love it. I think it's freaking just beautiful. I love the melody and the strings and the lyrics. It's just such a gorgeous song. I love the lyric. Something inside that was always denied for so many years. It's just I can't say enough about this song. I just freaking love it. So I have to say a tie, but I absolutely love both of these songs.
Yeah.
They're just
Then that part where it's like she's leaving home, bye. That's so beautiful.
Can't end a song any better than
this is like seriously like it might be one of my favorite McCartney songs, and it just works. It's where McCartney's like syrupiness really works for me because it does hit that emotional spot for me, rather than Martha, my dear.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Which is a great song too.
Yeah.
Or I guess like Hey Jude, like I we'll get to Hey Jude, but this song is so beautiful.
Yeah.
So With Me Tonight versus Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite. I'm a Lennon stan. I love Lennon. He's my favorite Beatle. This is not one of his better songs though. I appreciate it. I appreciate it more than I really like it. It's really psychedelic, and it's overtly British. Is for the benefit of Mr. Kite, there will be a show tonight, and it I don't think it's terrible, but I don't care for it. It's nothing crazy. I know I see people rave about this one, and I know there's a story of Lennon seeing the poster and stuff, but it's never done anything for me. And With Me Tonight is super charming song, so I'm going With Me Tonight.
Yeah, I voted With Me Tonight because I think Being for the Benefit Sky, this is like, and I've said this before in the chat, this is like a twee song on Sergeant Pepper, and some Sergeant Pepper is just too twee for me. And this is a prime example. With Me Tonight, though, is another one that's just so charming and so beautiful. It's just in its simplicity. So With Me Tonight.
And I think this was Keith Moon's favorite Beatles song. If I remember correctly, I'll probably have to reread that.
I
I
don't
know
know.
he really liked it. I don't know if it was his favorite though.
I know he loved pretty much the Beach Boys, and then he did his cover of Don't Worry Baby that apparently was so great that Brian cried the first time he heard it.
Dude, you should hear the Who's version of Barbara Ann. It knocks the Beach Boys version out of the
Oh, I
park.
know Keith Moon loved that song too.
They did such a good version. I'll share it with you guys later.
Um, I gotta say, Riley, I'm a little surprised you don't care for Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite because I feel like it's got like that like really cool psychedelic sound to it. You know, I know you're a big Pink Floyd guy. I think it's great. I love the song. I love the production on it and the vocal. I love that part in the middle where like you feel like you're at like a circus, like the I freaking love that. I feel like the song really paints a picture lyrically. Like it kind of fits. It really fits well in the album. I feel like it's definitely a great album track. Yes, outside of the album, I don't think this works as well, but I would still listen to it outside of the album. I enjoy it. With Me Tonight, I think I've said before, like it fits Smiley Smile well. It's a little simplistic for me. Like I feel like it's missing something. Like it's not a song I would listen to outside of Smiley Smile. I think I said that when we were doing our album 66 to 69 album episode. It's fine. I enjoy it enough. I think Carl has a really sweet vocal on it, but Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite, I think it's great. So easily that one.
You know, you bring up a really good point because I'm a big fan of Sid Barrett's Pink Floyd stuff. So like, I've got a bike, you can ride it if you like.
God,
Got a bell and a whistle. Like, I really like that stuff. And I haven't really listened to this one in a while. Usually because I just never really cared for it. So I'll give it a re-listen.
Yeah, I think in terms of like their psychedelic material, I think this is one of the best tracks that really like shows that. And I love the part at the end, like the and of course Henry the horse travels the world, or however the lyric is.
Dude, if I can listen to I want to tell you a story about a little man, if I can. A gnome named Grimble Grumble. If I can listen to that by Pink Floyd and enjoy it, I will probably. That's a really good point. I'll re-listen to this one.
That reminds me
But
of
as of now, With Me
that sounds
Tonight.
like what's that song? Ha 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 he he. I'm the laughing gnome, and you.
Dude, why do you think David Bowie was such a big fan of Pink Floyd?
I could tell why he loved. No, it's because that's very Sid Barrett-y, that song he did. Yeah.
This is where it gets this is really where the Beatles just like bitch slap the Beach Boys. So we have Within You, Without You versus Wind Chimes, and I'm not a huge fan of Within You, Without You, but I'm not a big fan of Wind Chimes either. So I'm going Within You, Without You. Just I feel like they really accomplished a lot more with the Indian influence with George. I feel like this is a very psychedelic song. I don't rave about it like most people do, but I do think it's better than Wind Chimes. So
Okay, I don't know who most people are because this is a divisive song. My turn. I hate Within You Without You. I think this is one of the worst Beatles songs. It is way too long. It does nothing for 5.5 minutes. People are coughing through it, like in the background vocals. That kind of says it all. It doesn't fit on Sergeant Pepper's. It's boring. I get what George was trying to do. I like him a lot. I call this song George Harrison shoves Indian music down everybody's throats for 5.5 minutes. Wind Chimes, I like it better. I like the Smile version better, but I kind of like the Smile version. But I don't care what you put up against Within You Without You. I'm going to choose whatever else it is. So easily Wind Chimes because I cannot freaking stand Within You Without You. I think I've heard it maybe like 3 times. I always skip
you
it.
take a load off your feet.
I hate
Matt.
I hate that song. Easily Wind Chimes. Easily Wind Chimes.
About versus Winds of Change.
Oh God, no. I'm okay. Like reasonable people, like anything off Smiley Smile, which you know, like yeah.
Oh, you got to answer the question then. Is it?
Oh God, probably Within You Without You because at least it's more interesting. Wind of Change, just like let's be honest, Wind of Change is just another one. It's freaking
Won't
boring.
last forever.
I can't stand Within You Without You though. I'm sorry. God bless George Harrison, but this song sucks.
We'll combine them. The winds of change. Okay. Anyway, I'm gonna pick. So within you, without you, I think I would enjoy this song at least a bit if it was only 2 minutes. But I agree with Matt. It's way too long and not enough is going on. Like it's just kind of the same thing over and over again. So I kind of get bored of it. It's definitely, I would say it's one of the, let me see. I would say it's the only skip on the album for me, honestly. I just don't really care for it. Wind Chimes, to be honest, both versions I are pretty close for me. They're both songs that I like, but I wouldn't say I love. But this Smiley Smile version is really like haunting and creepy. It's got a very like odd vibe to it, and I kind of like that. I know some people don't like what they did with it on Smiley Smile. Like they feel like they kind of took out like what made the song great. I actually really like the vibe of it though. I find like that part where like the wind chimes, like it's really haunting. So I gotta go Wind Chimes on this. But if Within You Without You was a little shorter, it would be closer.
If it was the smiley or not the smile version of Wind Chimes, 1000% I'm going with that one. I really like how it comes off of Workshop, and it's pretty charming on that one. But the smiley smile version is just it's not because it's because it's creepy, but like I don't think it's creepy. I mean I do, but you know what I mean? Like it doesn't like scare me or anything. It doesn't work for me in that way. I don't feel like that's the right song to do it with, but so Getting Hungry versus When I'm 64. This is like where Paul really pushes the limit on how syrupy he can get. But I think it's just because of nostalgia that I actually like this one. So I'm going When I'm 64, but if it was against the celebration version, disco version of Getting Hungry, it'd be a bit closer. Nah, I'm messing around. I'm messing around. I don't think it's no, it's When I'm 64 is so damn catchy. And maybe it's because I grew up with that song. So, but like that Paul's really fucking pushing it. Like you're like this close, man.
Yeah, 164 is definitely a bit twee, but I think it works because it's just like it's a kind of like I think it works on this song. Getting Hungry, I've always had an issue with the mixing. Like the verses are so quiet and then the chorus gets so freaking loud for some reason.
Hungry.
So I voted for 164. Yeah, I don't know. I never liked the mixing on Getting Hungry. I don't know what the hell is going on with that song.
So this one's not even close for me. When I'm 64, easily. I think of the song people consider like Paul's like granny songs. This is one of my favorites of them. I think the song is great, actually. It's got a great melody. I love that like that second section, like the every summer we could rent a cottage in the Isle of Wight if it's not too dear. Like I freaking love that melody, and I think this is just a great song. It's another one that's kind of nostalgic for me as well because Sergeant Pepper is one of those albums I remember listening to a lot when I was younger, like on CD, and I specifically remember this song a lot. I just really like it a lot. I think it's an infectious melody, and I'll defend it. I know some people aren't fond of this one. I don't know if the other Beatles were necessarily fond of this one either, but I love it. For Getting Hungry, it's whatever. Like the verse is kind of interesting, like the wake up in the morning, but the Getting Hungry, stupid chorus, man. I don't care for it at all. It's annoying. So but why this was a single, I don't know.
Have you ever watched Walk Hard? Dewey Cox story?
No.
There's a scene. Okay, that's a fun movie you should watch. There's a lot of stuff that kind of alludes to Brian Wilson, like a lot of parody of it. Mm-hmm. Funny ass movie. But there's a scene with the Beatles in the movie. And the scene is I wonder if your songs will still be shit when I'm 64. And it's John saying that to Paul. And it's
that's funny.
I'll send you that clip because you'll love it. There's a lot of love shown to both bands.
Morrison influences in him too, that character.
Speaking of When I'm 64, there's a song. I don't know if you listen to the Ruddles a whole lot. Like I think I sent you a couple of the parody songs.
I know them, yeah.
Yeah, the Ruddles have actually a lot of good songs written by Neil Lyons. But there's one song called Back in 64, which also very beautiful. Oddly enough, very beautiful. I'll share that one with you too.
All right.
All right. Lovely Rita versus Wonderful. I'm going Lovely Rita, Meter Maid. Another like this is where Paul's stuff, I guess, still works with me. This is before he gets to Martha, my dear kind of shit. This is I think it's very charming. The production again kind of saves it from being overly syrupy for me. I love the Lovely Rita, Meter Maid. That part's so damn good. So I'm going Lovely Rita.
Wonderful. Lovely Rita's too twee. I really like Wonderful. Even this version, I know it's kind of like I know Jake doesn't like that, but I'm not the biggest fan of Sergeant Pepper's, I'll admit. But yeah, Wonderful. I really like it. I just think even though it's kind of like creepy and haunting, I think it kind of works here. And I love the face shifting with like the
wonderful. Like Lovely Rita is just, it's really twee. It is. It's just, I think it's too twee. So wonderful.
Yeah, this is Lovely Rita by a mile for me. I think Paul had plenty of songs that are more twee than Lovely Rita. I mean, Lovely Rita actually has a ton of energy to it, and it's actually got kind of a rocking vocal too. I know the lyrics are twee, I get that, but like Lovely Rita, Mita May, like it's a
But the
great
lyrics
vocal.
are too twee. That's
I get that, but I mean the song though, like it's another infectious McCartney melody for me. I love like the backing vocals, like the lovely Rita Mita made. Just a great song. And wonderful. This Smiley Smile version just doesn't do too much for me. I think it's a nice vocal from Carl on it, but I prefer the Smile Sessions. Wonderful, obviously. So Lovely Rita easily for me.
Yeah, I'm going Lovely Rita. That it's again with the I know it's granny pop in some sense, but it's so rocking. I love it.
I like the melody, but the lyrics are just a little like stupid. Like "Tow My Heart Away."
Yeah, but like for me, if a song can bring the energy and the production is just right and the melody is good enough, the more that stuff is good, or the more that the stuff detracts away from the lyrics, the more I'll like it. That's why I can get behind some of like Sid Barrett, Pink Floyd shit. Why I can get behind or like that's what I mean. Like if it has the energy or if it has a great melody and the production's great, I won't care about the lyrics being corny.
Mm-hmm. Well, how do you
But
feel
then
about
when the melody is pure granny pop and then you have like basic ass lyrics from Paul McCartney, then I'm not gonna like it. Yeah. All right. Good morning versus whistling. Whistling all day. No, I love whistling. I actually think it's pretty charming, and it definitely that kind of thing, like Mama Says, whistling. A lot of those like quick like minute or so tracks. Those are kind of reminiscent of like the Bull Session kind of shit, where it's just tacked on at the end. But I feel like this one even more than Bull Sessions, and I love Bull Sessions.
You are the only person I know that will ever defend Bull Sessions.
All right, but my point is, I feel like this, even more than Bull Sessions, fits Smiley Smile at the end. But good morning. I love that. I love good morning. I know it's really tacky, and I know you're probably not going to like it, Matt. But
I love Good Morning, Good Morning.
Oh, good. Well, I really like it, and I think it's really charming. And then especially like what it comes right before. Similar to me, it's similarly to Pet Sounds. This is kind of like the calm before the storm because you get Reprise and then you get A Day in the Life. So I really like it.
Yeah, no, I really like Good Morning too, and I'm voting for it because I like it because I like a lot of the lyrics. I like the it's time for tea and meet the wife, and I like the animal sounds at the end. And it's a very rocking song. I used to have this as I tried to do this as an alarm one time, but I had to stop doing that because I got sick of it after a while. It's like the rooster that do. But yeah, no, I really like Good Morning. Whistling is charming, but yeah, I like Good Morning. I don't care for the Sgt. Pepper's reprise though.
Yeah, Good Morning for me as well. I definitely prefer it. I've seen people call this song one of the lesser ones on Sgt. Pepper. I would probably agree with that. I do think it's one of if I were to rank like the bottom 3 or 4 songs from the album, I would probably put it down there. But I think it's a good melody. I like the use of horns on it. I think that really enhances the song quite a bit. It's got a lot of energy. I forgot the lyric, but I love the part where it's like, I love that little part. Whistling I think works good as like a little like album closing track on Smiley Smile. I 100% prefer it to Mama Says, which doesn't do anything for me. And Bull Sessions, sorry Riley, but yeah, Whistling, it's really nice, but it's just the album closing track and it only works in the context of Smiley Smile. So Good Morning easily for me.
Oh, I've always understood Bull Sessions hate. I kind of agree with it sometimes.
I don't hate it, but it's just I don't view it like it's even like a song.
It's not a track. It's a track, not a song. It has a place on the album, and the place is at the end. Like so. All right. Yeah. So we could talk about Reprise. I think I enjoy it. I think when I was in high school, I tried to splice it together with the regular Sgt. Pepper's track to make it one track. Didn't really work out so well because it was kind of like Billy Shears. It didn't work. But I do enjoy it. It has its place on the album, but this truly is like an album only listen. And it's mostly the reason why I can't have the regular Sgt. Pepper's track on my playlist. So
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I agree. Like it's fine in the context of the album, but like on its own, it's superfluous. But the next song,
mm,
that's
Well, I view the Sergeant Pepper's Reprise. I view it as like it sets up the song that follows it, and
Yeah.
that's why it works. It's like a way of being like if you're listening to the album, like let's say you don't look at the track list, you might be like, oh, like it's gonna end here. You know, it started with Sergeant Pepper, and it's gonna finish with Sergeant Pepper, and then the next song starts, and it's like holy shit. So
all right, so this is the big one. I
yes,
think in some aspects this is the Beatles' best song. It's not my favorite song by the band, but there's a solid argument to be made that this is the best one. And not even because it closes Sergeant Pepper's. It's the dichotomy, that word
yes,
between John's parts and Paul's parts, I think kind of show the most here. And and usually that stuff doesn't work for me. I know they've done that before with each other. I think we can work it out. It didn't really do much for me here. It makes the song because I mean John's parts are my favorite parts of the song because maybe it's because I'm a John guy, but Paul's parts really work so well in especially with the song's topic, like a day in the life. It's just like the bad parts and the good parts kind of thing. I don't know. It's such a beautiful song, and then you have that rising orchestra part where it gets so like scary, and then you
that
go
main
back to
chord at the end.
dun, 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 and the ending part, like after the song ends, like 20 seconds later, you get da 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 da.
Oh, the
And
looping, the locked groove at the
yeah, I remember my brother got a copy of Sergeant Pepper's, and he didn't know about that part of the song, and he just let the needle run, and then out of nowhere, I just see him jump, and he's like, "Holy shit, what the fuck was that?" I'm like, "Oh, you didn't know that?" Yeah, but such a great song. Um, Arguably the Beatles' best. I think it's in my top 10 somewhere. It's not my favorite, like I said, but objectively, kind of like Good Vibrations, fantastic song.
Oh yeah, masterpiece. Like you said, the dichotomy. I almost kind of see the song as like because with Paul's parts, like the John's part's almost like that's like the part where you're dreaming, and then like the Paul part's like where you wake up from the dream. You know, like woke up, fell out of bed, dragged a comb across my head, and I can relate to it too because like who hasn't gotten out of bed and they have to go to work in 5 minutes? You know, you just like kind of just like get ready for your day. And I think there's a short film called Bambi versus Godzilla, and it was like one of those like kind of like it was like a student film that was made at like Caltech or something. It was actually made by somebody that later became a famous animator, and it's like this like it's like Bambi is like in a field like eating grass or something, and then all of a sudden you see the thing comes out like the Godzilla foot and smash it, and it's the final chord of a day and the life slowed down.
mm,
Yeah,
wow,
Mars. Yeah, you go look that up, and all our listeners go look up Bambi meets Godzilla. It's just like it's like all this like like that classic like piece, and all of a sudden you just see the foot comes in, it smashes Bambi, and then you just hear the final chord through the day, and the life slowed down. But yeah, awesome song. And then I think also like you mentioned that locked groove. Before the locked groove, I think there's like that high pitched frequency that Paul McCartney put in there because he wanted his dog to hear it. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, it's a masterpiece. It's honestly a masterpiece. It's a brilliant song.
yeah. I mean, I agree like with what Riley said. Like I wouldn't say it's my favorite Beatles song, but there is a case to be made that it is the greatest Beatles song. I mean, the production on this is just phenomenal. I mean, the arrangement with George Martin. I mean, it's just incredible to listen to. I think it also really shows the strengths of Lennon and McCartney as like individual songwriters. Like Lennon has this like the verse melody. It's very like the lyrics are very like deep and meaningful and introspective. And then Paul has this more upbeat melodic part that's really a lot of fun. And I love the way that they transition. It's like two completely separate parts, but it works so well. Like I love the way like you hear the little like the alarm ringing, and then it goes into woke up, got out of bed, dragged a comb across my head. And then of course, yeah, that ending with the the rising, the orchestra, the crescendo, like just going up and up and up, and then just freaking that chord, man, like oh my gosh, it's just incredible. It's hard to argue that there's an album closer stronger than this one. I mean, it's an amazing song, and I love it. So, and a great song to like introduce somebody to like the Beatles' more complex music, you know.
All right. For me, it's not a contest, and I've kind of alluded to this, is that Past Pet Sounds is kind of a sweep for the Beatles. It's not that there aren't songs it's not that I don't enjoy any of these albums coming up, or this one right here. In fact, I enjoy them greatly. But I'm comparing like Sergeant Pepper's to Smiley Smile. It's not even close. You have arguably one of the greatest albums of all time, compared to which is Carl said was a bunt compared to a home run. And I do really enjoy Smiley Smile as an album, and in some cases, as much as I would enjoy Sgt. Pepper as an album. But the songs on Sgt. Pepper are so damn good. And then, like, even if it had just A Day in the Life and maybe like When I'm 64, I think those two tracks, two of the best tracks from the Beatles. And well, maybe not When I'm 64, but you know what I mean? It's not even close. The both are great. I both enjoy both of them, but I'm picking Sgt. Pepper's.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Sergeant Pepper's, but if you're, and I do love Smiley Smile, but I got to be objective here. Sergeant Pepper's pushed the album much further than Smiley Smile did, and the highs on Sergeant Pepper are higher than Smiley Smile, so I'm gonna vote for Sergeant Pepper's.
Yeah, it's no contest for me either. I mean, I do really love Sgt. Pepper. It's a top 3 Beatles album for me. Smiley Smile, it works as an album. Like, I think like it definitely has a vibe to it, which I think is cool. But I mean, in terms of like really high highs, I mean, I think the only two you could argue would be Good Vibrations and Heroes and Villains. And personally, I like Heroes and Villains, but like it's not like an all timer for me. Good Vibrations is though. But then you look at Sgt. Pepper, and you have so many freaking amazing songs. I mean, it's like it's such a stacked album, and I know that you could. I'm not, like I said, I'm not crazy about Within You Without You, but besides that, I mean, this is a near perfect album for me, and I come back to these tracks a lot. So no contest, Sgt. Pepper for me.
I'm sorry I missed the track by track discussion, but to end things off, I would say Smiley Smile is a pretty good album. Like Carl said, it's more of like a bunch than a grand slam, like Riley mentioned before. Sgt. Pepper is one of the greatest albums of all time. So with that being said, I'd have to say Sgt. Pepper for me. Just has more stronger tracks on it.
Yeah. I mean, Sgt. Pepper has more highs, and I feel like kind of picked up where Pet Sounds left off. Is a bit more experimental than Pet Sounds.
Yeah.
In a lot of aspects. I think Pet Sounds pushed a lot of boundaries, but there wasn't anything like truly experimental about it, or at least as much as Sgt. Pepper's. So I don't think Pet Sounds is better than Sgt. Pepper, but I think in terms of what we got, I mean, the Beatles kept on going, and the Beach Boys, admittedly, like they took a bit of a dive. They're still putting out great stuff, but Sgt. Pepper's is freaking Sgt. Pepper's. All right. So up next, we have Wild Honey versus Magical Mystery Tour. And this is going to be a weird one for me because I know Magical Mystery Tour has been canonized as the US release, with the EP added with a bunch of the singles that are tacked on. Yeah. And I know that's kind of the now official canon for the album, but it's really hard for me to kind of keep that in any sense, because I'll always see it as the EP with a bunch of really well singles that did great, tacked on at the end. So that being said, let's get into the track list. All right, Wild Honey versus Magical Mystery Tour. I'm going Wild Honey. I think Magical Mystery Tour is a great opener for the album and for the movie and for the EP. I think it's a fine song, but similar to Sgt. Pepper's, it's more of an opener than an actual like strong track for me. And Wild Honey, I think, is really awesome. I hold a bit of bias because I'm a big fan of the live version, and that's kind of been carried over to the studio version from '67. But I think Wild Honey is just a really awesome track, and I don't think it's a better opener, but I think it's a better track. So I'm gonna go Wild Honey.
Yeah. Magic Mystery Tour, I will say, grew on me a lot. Like at first, I didn't like it at all, but over the years, it's kind of grown on me, like the song. But I kind of agree with what you said, that it works better as an opener to the record than it does kind of on its own. Whereas I think Wild Honey is a great song on its own. I love the way that Wild Honey opens it, eating up the wild honey, and Carl's vocal is just so great and so passionate. So I voted for Wild Honey as well.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you guys on this one. Wild Honey, I totally agree with the comparison with Sgt. Pepper and Magical Mystery Tour. Like, as album openers, these work really good, but judging them as individual songs, I think Wild Honey is definitely better. I freaking love this song. It's one of the highlights from this period for me, from the band. Carl's vocal is just so rocking and soulful, and it really shows him doing a new style, because a lot of people before that, you kind of knew him as having this really smooth, gentle voice, and here he is really singing the hell out of these like R&B songs. The part of this song that really does it for me is like when that solo comes in towards the end, and then you have that part with the Sweeter, 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 sweeter. And then Carl is just freaking killing it on vocals on that. I just absolutely love it. So Wild Honey for me, great album opener.
Yeah, so Magical Mystery Tour, same as you guys, I feel like works really well within the context of the album. It's kind of like an opener, it's kind of like an introduction to this whole idea of this movie. Um, and Wild Honey is just a great piece of music on its own. It's that piano sound, Brian's piano that he had infamously detuned to make that sound, and then the Farfisa solo, the Farfisa organ by Bruce, and Carl's great vocal, like it just sells the song. So I'd have to go with Wild Honey myself.
Yeah, it's like you guys said, it's just a really, really great song in general.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be the opener to be a great song for it to
Yeah.
get that listen. Yeah, so the next one is Aren't You Glad versus The Fool on the Hill. And I'm probably gonna piss off Jake. I'm gonna go Aren't You Glad? I think Fool on the Hill is a great song. Again, I feel like I know it's pretty easy for you guys to think like, oh, he hates McCartney and he'll shit on McCartney's granny pop stuff. I enjoy a great deal of it. It's just there's certain songs I absolutely hate. And I really enjoy Fool on the Hill. I really enjoy the lyrics a lot too. I think they're kind of the standout for me on here compared to anything that's musically done with it. But Aren't You Glad is just such a fun, chill song. It fits the vibe of the album. It's my favorite song from Wild Honey that isn't Darlin'. It gets a lot of listens for me. I think it's one of my most listened to songs a couple of years ago. It's definitely in the top 10. I'll have to check on that. But it's just such a fun song. I spin this one way more than Fool on the Hill. So
Yeah, I actually really do like Fool on the Hill. It's a bit on the sappy side, of course, but I think the lyrics really work. It's a bit of a moving song. The video for it is kind of weird though that they put in the movie. That's interesting. I actually voted for Aren't You Glad as well too, though, because I think that's a real highlight on Wild Honey, and it's a real underrated cut in the Beach Boys catalog.
So I mean, I like Aren't You Glad quite a bit. I think on our 66 to 69 album episode, I think our guest Steve said that he thought this was like the single that never was. I kind of agree with that. I think this definitely had like potential as a single. I think it's really great melodically. It's great vocal from Mike. But I gotta say Fool on the Hill for this one. I think this is a top-notch Paul ballad. I freaking love it. I love the vibe of it. I think musically and lyrically, it's really great. Like that opening line, day after day, alone on a hill, the man with the foolish grin is keeping perfectly still. It's such a very like evocative and descriptive lyric, and I just freaking love this song. I also like that. I don't know if it's a key change at the end, but where it's like they won't like him, the fool on the hill. I always liked how he sings that at the end, but I freaking love this song. So Fool on the Hill for me, but I really like Aren't You Glad as well.
I really like both these songs actually. Fool on the Hill, like Matt mentioned, is a little bit on the sappy side. Uh, some of McCartney's sappy stuff I don't like as much, but this one is actually pretty good for me. I like the flute, it's like a panpipe or flute or something, doing that melody. It's kind of an interesting effect. Aren't You Glad is one of the highlights on Wild Honey for me. I would say, although I really like this version, I like the version on Live in London a little bit better. It's a little bit more rockin'. But with that being said, I really like Brian's vocal on this version, so I'm gonna have to go with "Aren't You Glad" for me.
yeah, Aren't You Glad is it's so fun.
Yeah.
I love the dun 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 dun. But Fool on the Hill, that there is a section in the middle that I really like. I think McCartney's going oh whoa, and then you get the keyboard over it. I think that's a really cool part. That's kind of it for musically how much I really like care for it though. But the lyrics on that song are really great.
And it does have a weird video. Matt was right
Yeah.
from the Magic Mystery
The
Tour.
next one's I Was Made to Love Her versus Flying. I love George. This is not at all one of George's better songs. I appreciate what he's doing. I know around this time he was really getting into that electronic music. This is where I kind of get Wonderwall music and I forgot the other one. But it's cool. It's interesting, but I don't think it's good. And I Was Made to Love Her. This was the first time I actually heard the song. I did not know the Stevie Wonder version. I think as a cover, it's great. It's a fantastic song. It absolutely fits the vibe of the album. It's not even close for me. I'm going I Was Made to Love Her.
This was a group effort, not just George flying.
Is it?
Yeah,
It's the
Am I thinking of
instrumental.
Blue Jay Way.
Blue Jay
Yeah.
Way and George.
Yeah.
They're both shit though.
I like Blue Jay Way, but yeah, flying. It's fine for what it is, but for me, it's like it only really works in the context of the album. And I Was Made to Love Her, I think, is a pretty solid cover. I think Carl does a nice job with it. I know some people don't like it. We're not gonna talk about those people, so I voted for I Was Made to Love Her.
Yeah, I mean, so Flying kind of has like a cool vibe. Like I can kind of vibe with it a little bit, but in terms of their instrumentals, it's not a highlight for me for sure. It's not a song I would ever choose to put on outside of the context of Magical Mystery Tour, and I would say it is my least favorite song in Magical Mystery Tour for sure. I Was Made to Love Her though. That's a great cover. I mean, I freaking love Carl's vocal on it. He really sells it, and that no contest for me. I Was Made to Love Her. I think it's great. Highlight one of the highlights from Wild Honey for me.
I think Flying is interesting. It has it's a da 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 da.
Yeah.
That song, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting instrumental. But I Was Made to Love Her, even though like Riley, I never heard the Stevie Wonder version before I heard the Beach Boys version. Even though it is a cover, Carl just absolutely sells it with the vocal. Like he was just killing it on this album. And I also heard that he recorded a lot of these vocals just standing up, just singing into a dynamic microphone versus like they'd have like a condenser in front of him off of a stand. So I think that kind of affected the way that he sang on this album, which he never really did it exactly the same again after this. But I would say I Was Made to Love Her just because of Carl's vocal on that.
Yeah. I love the mountain tumble if this whole world crumble. I freaking love that part.
Yeah.
I was born a little rock, and a childhood sweetheart.
Oh man.
Remember the first time I heard him, like, holy shit, this is the Beach Boys?
Yeah. R&B at its finest, you know.
Wait, Matt will agree with this. It's Blue Eyed Soul.
It's Blood Soul, exactly, or Plastic Soul, as David Bowie called it.
Plastic Soul.
But it's still damn good music.
Yeah, just some people, that gets into the debate of some people think, oh, white people shouldn't sing this kind of music. That's a whole other discussion.
For me, honestly, though, like I understand that point of view, but I feel like music is kind of a universal thing in that it's for everybody to enjoy. And if somebody does something, you don't have to like it, but you can't. I don't think you should really hate on it unless there is like bad intentions with it. So.
Well, with the internet and everybody.
Oh yeah, but
now, so everybody got to put their take out there, and
But it's music. It's meant to be a universal thing for people to share. Like other forms of cultural appropriation, I can kind of get behind, but for music, it's like this is for everybody, and and as far as I've seen, it's mostly love. So,
yeah.
Country Air versus Blue Jay Way. I kind of gave my thoughts on Blue Jay Way. I love George. It's shit. I do not like it. It's too weird. Again, I appreciate what he's going for. I don't think it's good though, and I feel like this is very spotty stuff. But to his credit, and most of the band's credit around this time, especially with Magical Mystery Tour, Brian Epstein just died, and that was a huge blow to the band.
Yeah,
and I feel like it definitely got in the way of a lot of things. Like the whole project of Magical Mystery Tour was kind of a shit show. And I get it, so I'm not gonna fault them too much. But I don't really enjoy Blue Jay Way. I feel like George had a lot better things on the way, and I'm sure this was a big stepping stone in that direction, but I don't care for it. As for Country Air, this is such a vibey song. I love it. It's kind of atmospheric in some ways. I really love the vocals on it. The dun, 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 where they're like humming that part was so cool. Get away with that country air surrounds me. It's such a great song. So I'm going Country Air.
Yeah, I actually like Blue Jay Way because I think it's kind of like I like the ambience of it, and I like how it's kind of haunting. It's for me at least, it's a hell of a lot better than Within You Without You. I don't think it's like one of George's best songs, but I like it for what it is. And to add on to what you said, Riley, I think Paul was the one that kind of pushed them to do this Magical Mystery Tour thing. That's why it was kind of his thing, and nobody else really wanted to do it. And then I think they all kind of resented him for making them do it because the movie was a disaster. We got some good songs, of course, but the movie was a disaster. It was reviled in the UK. It was supposed to come out. It was supposed to air here on NBC in '68. It didn't get released here until '74 because of how bad the reviews were. But yeah, I voted for Country Air because you're right. It's very vibey. It's another pretty underrated tune. Get a breath of that country air, feel the beauty of it everywhere. And I just think what I love about Wad Honey is just how simplistic it is, but just how like soulful it is, and I think this song exemplifies that well. So I voted for Country Air, but I do enjoy Blue Jay Way for what it is.
Yeah, Blue Jay Way. This is another one I'm a little surprised. Like Riley, I could get you not liking it or not being a huge fan of it, but like to hate it. Like again, it's got like that psychedelic trippy vibe. I feel like that you could kind of vibe with. So I think it's a good song. I don't come back to it too often though. I mean, it's a decent song, we'll say. I feel like I'm actually being a little too kind to it. It's fine. I like that part at the end where it's like of the main melody where it's like, man, I may be asleep. I really like that little part. It's definitely a vibe. Country Air though, I do prefer. I think it's I like the sound of the piano on it. It's got like that piano sound that you hear throughout Wild Honey that I really dig. And yeah, it's just a really vibey song. I love like get a breath of that country air. It's a great song. So Blue Jay Way I think is okay, but I really like Country Air. So I'm gonna go Country Air.
Blue Jay Way is interesting. It has I think there's like 2 or 3 different sections to it. There's like please don't be long, and then the
Yeah.
Blue Jay Way, that part. Yeah, it's an interesting song. It's got a couple cool textures to it. I would say the Country Air though is the stronger song in my opinion. Just it seems more fleshed out, and the harmonies I really like on Country Air as well too, and like the kind of the humming at the beginning and all that kind of stuff that Riley was talking about. Um, yeah, so I'd say Country Air for me.
Yeah, and I think you kind of got the wrong idea. I think Blue Jay Way is fine, but I mean, I know I said it was shit, but I think it's fine. But it doesn't do a whole lot for me. And like I said, I appreciate it. I like that George was moving in a more progressive direction, but I just don't care for it. Um, Next up is A Thing or Two or Your Mother Should Know. And I'm going Your Mother Should Know. I think it's a pretty enjoyable song. I don't think it's the best on Magical Mystery Tour. I don't think it's even close to the best, but it is a really enjoyable one. Um, that's about as far as I'll go with it. I just think it's really enjoyable. A Thing or Two is the sequel to Getting Hungry. Yeah, so I'm going Your Mother Should Know.
Yeah, I really like Your Mother Should Know. It's definitely a bit on the granny pop side as we were talking about, but I think it works well. I enjoyed like the vibe of it and the lyrics, A Thing or Two is fine, but it's probably my least favorite on one of my least favorites on Wild Honey, so I voted for Your Mother Should Know.
Yeah, well, so Your Mother Should Know. I know, like again, it's one of those ones that people say like, oh, it's Paul doing his granny thing again, but goddamn, I love this freaking song. I think it's awesome. I love the chords and the melody. I love like that middle section where it's just the instrumental piano, like the dun 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 dun. Dun. I freaking love that. I just think it's an infectious melody and another great McCartney track. I come back to it a lot. One of my favorites from Magical Mystery Tour for sure. A Thing or Two, I like the verse melody quite a bit. I think it's catchy, like and I'm lucky I'm working from 9 to 5. Like it's a really catchy melody, but then I think the chorus kind of lets it down a little bit. Like it's just like the do it right, baby, out of sight. Like it's fine, but like it doesn't work that well for me. I definitely think it's one of the weaker tracks on Wild Honey as well. So I'm gonna go with Your Mother Should Know easily for this one. I think it's great.
Your Mother Should Know is a little bit too granny pop for me. Um, although it is a good song, the structure of it is good. The bass line is really cool. You can tell that Paul put a lot of effort into this song. A Thing or Two is also a really good song. I Both songs I would actually call the weaker songs on both albums, to be honest. A Thing or Two has a couple cool, interesting chords. I think they're like not ninths or minor ninths that they're playing on the verse section. I'd have to listen to it again. But with that being said, I'm going to have to go with A Thing or Two. I'm going to be the odd man out here.
Yeah, for me, right now, in this specific period, is where Paul's granny pop is starting to get on my nerves a little bit.
Yeah.
It only goes
It's
downhill from here.
It's a little bit too much for me.
Yeah, but I still enjoy it. It gets worse, much worse for me. The farther down we go, give or take a couple of songs. But he does a lot of great stuff musically on Your Mother Should Know, though.
Yeah.
That tagline a little bit at the end of the chorus, I think. Da-da-da-da-da, da-da. I can't Jake might know what I'm talking about. I think that's pretty cool
Da, da,
musically.
da, 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 at the end.
Yeah, that part's pretty cool. So I can appreciate that. But I feel like the more down the line we get, the more it's just like Martha, my dear. And I,
Plus,
I
you
hate
like that song.
I do like it, but that's the best example I can think of.
Okay.
Or
Because I
Honey
mean,
Pie.
yeah. All right. This one's gonna be fucking tough. Darlin versus I Am the Walrus. I gave this one a tie because I am so split down the middle. Both are probably my favorite songs are my favorite songs from each album. I think I Am the Walrus is absolutely incredible musically. I just found the Oasis version they did for Nebworth, and I fucking love that version with the guitars going down, which is so cool. But even just looking at the John version, I love how messed up the lyrics are. He was not intending to write anything. He was just writing like random shit to give scholars a hard time. I think the specific story is like his friend was in school and in one of his literature classes they're like we're analyzing Beatles lyrics and John's like cool, I'm gonna write a song that makes no fucking sense. And then that ended up being I'm the Walrus, and I've always loved that story. I think musically it's so cool. The Justin, you'll probably know the instrument that goes in the beginning that goes throughout the song. The
I think
production
it's
is
a
so cool. It's such a
yeah.
fucking great song. And Darlin, on the other hand, I talked about this one, I think for a good amount of time on our first episode. It's one of my favorite songs by the band, period. It's so simple, but the lyrics are awesome. The vocal delivery by Carl is nuts. Um, and the production's light but still so cool. The da na 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 da da na da. These are two of my favorite songs from each band. I'm gonna go with the tie. It's so damn tough.
Yeah, I don't think you could. I mean, these are two like completely different songs, but I think they're both wonderful. Darling, oh, darling, you're so fine. And Carl has a great vocal on it. It's such like a nice, sunshiny, song, such a great vibe. I Am the Walrus is such a cool, like kind of experimental song. There's a lot of cool stuff going on, like especially like in like that middle part where they put like the old like recordings on it and stuff. I think there's actually fake stereo too on the official stereo version. They had to do that because like the old recordings they were using were like mono only. And then, John's very oblique lyrics that really mean nothing, but of course have spawned thousands of conspiracy theories. So I also called it a tie because I think they're both wonderful tunes.
So, musically, I think I Am the Walrus is probably more impressive just because like there's a lot going on with that track, and like I think the production is super cool on it. Like you guys said, like kind of like nonsense lyrics from John, like I am the Eggman, like it's very interesting lyrics, but I like the song a lot. I like that middle section a lot. The sitting in an English garden waiting for the sun. That's definitely my favorite part of the song. But if we're judging this by like which song would I be more likely to put on, like what song do I want to listen to more? Definitely Darlin'. I love like the R&B soul vibe of this track. I think it showcases the best of all the tracks on Wild Honey. I think it's a freaking phenomenal song. Killer vocal from Carl, like the like more soul than I ever had. Like he's killing the vocal. Just a great track, and I can see why this song has remained in the band's set list for many years. So definitely Darlin' for me.
My feelings are the same as much the same as you guys. I Am the Walrus just has a lot going on. It's like musically impressive. The lyrics are just really clever. John's vocal is great. That cool like fake stereo section where they're like twiddling through the radio stations, that's pretty cool too. Darlin is one of the Beach Boys' best at this time. Carl is killing it on vocals again. I love the little horn section. That piano sound throughout the album is just so infectious. And like Jake, like would I be willing to put on I Am the Walrus over Darlin'? I'm probably gonna go with Darlin', to be honest. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Darlin'. Yeah.
Also, Darlin', of all the Beach Boys songs, I think Darlin' is like one of the ones that works the best live. Like
Oh,
Yeah, it's
Carl in the like in the 70s and the 80s, just like singing this thing, like oh my god, like
you
he just
need Carl singing it.
every time.
I watched them do it live last year back in November, and I think the guy singing did a great job, but it's not Carl, and it's not
Yep.
going to be the same.
Yep.
All right. Here's actually another tough one for me. I love Just Wants to See You and Hello Goodbye. I hate Hello Goodbye so fucking much.
Really?
But that chorus is actually so damn catchy, and I hate myself for it because it's you say goodbye, I say hello. I love that, but I hate the rest of the song, and I kick myself every time because it is the most bipolar song for me because I want to hate it. It's everything I hate. I do hate a lot of it, but that chorus, man, it's so catchy. It's an earworm, so it's tough. And I love what just wants to see you is fine. It's another one I'm 50-50 on, but I'm 50-50 on it because it's more like a 5 out of 10 where it's just an okay song. So it's which one do I play more? Neither. So it's a tie.
Okay. First of all, yeah, no, you're crazy. Hello Goodbye, I think is a pop classic. I love that song. So
The
catchy.
lyrics fucking suck.
Okay, yeah, but you just said earlier that you didn't really
It's
care about
catchy, I know.
So you don't make any sense. But anyway, I don't
I'm
really
kicking myself in the foot, but
I
I
think
gotta
it's
be honest.
I think melodically it's a great song. It's a fun pop song. Yeah, the lyrics aren't the best. Who gives a shit? It's a catchy song. I Love Just Wants to See You is okay. It's fine for what it is. I wouldn't choose to put it on. It's fine in the context of the album. The stupid lyric at the end about see you in the nude, it's dumb. Easily Hello Goodbye, easily. Not even close.
Yeah, I mean, Hello Goodbye. I mean, I'm sorry. It's infectious and I think it's a great song. I mean, yeah, lyrically, yeah, it's kind of I can see why it kind of annoys you, Riley. Like the you say yes, I say no. Like it's just like, very like simple like rhymes and contrasting words, but I just think, yeah, that chorus is so freaking killer. And I love the way it ends too, like with the hello. And then it goes into that hello, hello. It's a great way to end the song too. Yeah, this song, it's just infectiously catchy. And I freaking love it. So, and I'd love just wants to see you. It's good. I like the track quite a bit actually. I think it kind of reminds me of like Busy Doing Nothing, and that's kind of got like those like simple like slice of life like lyrics, like when's the last time you baked me a pie, and then the I'd love just wants to see you in the nude. I know, Matt, you said you don't like that. I think it's just funny. But I like the track, but I have to go Hello Goodbye just because I think it's a pop classic as well. I wouldn't say I listen to it too often, but like whenever it comes on, I always vibe with it. So Hello Goodbye.
Yeah, Hello Goodbye is a pop classic. It's got beautiful bass lines by McCartney that meant that thing at the end, Hey La Helloa, that's really cool as well. That kind of splits up the track a bit. I love Just Wants to See You. This is like Jake mentioned, it's one of like Brian's Busy Do Nothing kind of tracks, where it's like acoustic guitar and really simple. But I like some of the lyrics on it. I like Brian's vocal on it. It's very simple and very Brian. And I think a lot of Beach Boys fans will gravitate towards these type of tracks, especially fans of this era. So for me, I'm one of those fans. So I would go with Busy Doing Nothing, unfortunately, for everybody else.
Busy doing nothing. You mean I just
Yeah.
love
I'd love just wants to see you.
I love Just Wants to See You. Sorry.
nah.
You
No, that
sorry.
chorus is so catchy, and it's the oh no.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, that part's so cool, but the rest of it I just don't like. And the lyrics are so terrible. It's I am so split on this one. Like I want to hate it, and I usually do, but I also really like that chorus. It's I'm so split on it. I know I confuse you, Matt, but I'm so this is one of those confusing songs for me
I
where
can
I just
see why you don't like it because it's like really like super
yeah, but
like
then you get to that
happy and
chorus, and then it's
yeah.
oh no, and that part's so is an earworm for me. So
I
I'm
feel,
split on it.
I feel like I'm gonna enjoy it even more now, like because now whenever it comes on, I'm just like when it's like I say hi, you say low, I want to be thinking, yep, Riley fucking hates this, and I'm just gonna start laughing. So
Hey man, that's me with Car Crazy Cutie.
it's fine, okay, it's fine.
All right, Here Comes the Night for Strawberry Fields. I like Here Comes the Night, but Strawberry Fields is arguably John's best song. This is one of those ones that has always clicked with me. I liked this one when I was really young as one of the few Blue album tracks that I really liked when I was a kid, and I wasn't really a big fan of that compilation because that stuff didn't really click with me yet. I didn't really understand it, but this one always did. I really like Strawberry Fields. I really like that part at the end where it's kind of like I don't know what he's doing. The do 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 do. That's kind of like a loop thing at the end.
Yeah, there's
Um,
loops going on, yeah.
but the chord progression is so sweet, and the lyrics are so beautiful. And it's one of those ones that click with you. And then kind of as I got older and I was kind of maturing more, that it became similar to All Summer Long for me. It became more of a melancholic, a bit more of a sad song, and but I freaking love it. It's arguably John's best song. It's there's not many songs in the Beach Boys catalog that come up to this one, so it's not even close for me.
Yeah, between these two, Here Comes the Night, Strawberry Fields Forever, that's easy. Strawberry Fields Forever is a masterpiece. One of the Beatles' best songs, one of the best songs, period. Here Comes the Night is charming. I like it for what it is, but when you're putting it up against Strawberry Fields Forever, nah, it's got to be Strawberry Fields Forever. I mean, that song is just, I can see why Brian, like when he heard it, he's like, I give up. You know, it's an amazing song.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's no contest for me too. Yeah, Strawberry Fields Forever, classic Beatles track, one of John's best. Great lyrics on this one too. Again, very visual. You can really picture them as he's singing them. Here Comes the Night is one of my favorite album cuts from Wild Honey. I think it's great. I love the melody and the verses, like the I'm through working just hustling. Like I think it's really catchy and fun, but there's no denying the greatness of Strawberry Fields Forever. So I'm gonna go Strawberry Fields.
Strawberry Fields Forever has that great mellotron at the beginning, the flute sound that I
Mhm.
really like. There's actually a couple different mellotron sounds on it, but the cool thing about Strawberry Fields is it has for each section has like very distinct like sounds to it. There's not really one sound that runs through it, like one instrument that runs through it, which is really cool and interesting for the Beatles. And John's vocals on this are great. The songwriting's great. Uh, what was the Beach Boys song we were?
Here Comes the
Oh, Here
Night.
Comes the Night. Okay. Yeah, so Here Comes the Night. Yeah, it's a great song. I obviously prefer this version to the disco version that happened later.
That doesn't
Um,
exist.
it doesn't
There's a
exist.
disco version?
I don't know what you're talking.
But if I was to choose between the two, I would honestly go with Strawberry Fields Forever. I'm sorry, Beach Boys fans.
It's not even close. All right, Let the Wind Blow versus Penny Lane. I actually enjoy Penny Lane. Penny Lane, that part's really good. I really like the verses. It's again, this is kind of the perfect amount of Paul McCartney cheese. I used to not really like it a lot, and then upon a re-listen a couple of years ago, I thought it was pretty damn good. I don't listen to it too much though, but I do enjoy it. But Let the Wind Blow is fantastic. Is such a vibe. And then the Let the Bees Make Honey.
Love that line.
That part is maybe the best moment on the Wild Honey album for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna go with Let the Wind Blow, but I do enjoy Penny Lane. It's definitely one of the more granny pop songs that I can get behind. I don't think it's like a freaking masterpiece. I don't think it's anything incredible, but I do think it's a pretty solid song.
I gave it a tie. I really enjoyed both songs. I think Pain Lane is a great song, and actually, I think it was the A side here in the States because it got the number one and not Strawberry Fields Forever, which kind of makes sense because it was the more poppy song. It's the
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
Or hooky. Or hooky. Yeah.
that is. I think Pain Lane's a great song. It's another one too that's very. The imagery in the song is great. So when you just close your eyes, you can just see everything that Paul McCartney is describing. Let the Wind Blow, gorgeous song. Probably my favorite song on side two. Is Darling on side two? It is right on the vinyl. I don't have it on
Darling's on side two. It's the side two opener.
I think it is. Yeah, I don't have it on vinyl, so I don't know. But like it and Darling are probably my two favorites on side two. I love the line about the poor find money, the bees make honey. I love that line. I gave it a ties. I think they're both wonderful songs. Wonderful, wonderful songs.
Yeah, this is a really close one for me too because "Let the Wind Blow" is definitely one of the highlights from Wild Honey for me. That section, "Let the bees make honey, let the poor find," like, oh my gosh, that's so incredible. But I gotta go with Penny Lane for this one. Penny Lane, honestly, this was one of the first Beatles songs I can ever remember, like really, really, really loving. Like I can remember like playing this one over and over again, like from a young age. I think it's got an incredible melody, like what a great hook it has, and I love the visual. Again, the very descriptive lyrics, like like "and the fireman rushes in the pouring rain," very strange. Like it's just a great, great lyric, great melody. I love like that horn solo in the middle too. Like I think that works so well. And this is a classic. So I'm gonna go Penny Lane, but it's very, very, very close. So some days I might prefer to hear "Let the Wind Blow," but as a song, I'm gonna go with Penny Lane.
Yeah, Penny Lane has a great hook to it. It's got a lot of great melodies in it. Paul's lyrics. He was obviously responding to John's Strawberry Fields Forever, making his own version. I'm talking about Penny Lane. And like that, you could also close your eyes and, like Matt said, and just visualize exactly what he's talking about, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And I like the piccolo trumpet solo that Jake was talking about in the middle. It's just absolutely fantastic touch, rather than just like a guitar solo or something. Um, and then Let the Wind Blow is just such a great song on Wild Honey as well too. I do like this version, but I like the version on in concert a little bit better. I think it just works better a little bit live. But with that being said, I'm gonna call it a tie between the two songs because I really enjoy both songs a lot.
Yeah, I like Penny Lane. I don't think it's as great as everybody makes it out to be, but I do enjoy it. I appreciate the approach that he was going for with it though. That kind of like Strawberry Fields, kind of his version of it.
Yeah.
But ever since that comparison was made, I'm like, oh, it's just a bad version of Strawberry Fields. So there's no point in listening to it.
That's one of the most absurd things I've ever heard. Top 10 McCartney songs.
I said I enjoy it. I enjoy the song. I just don't think it's a freaking like. I don't think it's as great as everybody says it is.
A bad version of Strawberry Fields. Okay.
Dude, I was like 16. I'm like, oh man, this shit rocks. Oh, Penny Lane, this is shit.
All right. Let's move on to Time to
How she
Boogaloo It.
boogalooed it. And Baby You're a Rich Man. I like Baby You're a Rich Man. It's good.
Yeah.
How she boogalooed it is actually, I'll be honest, that one's been growing on me. I enjoy it. I think it's really rocking. But I think Baby You're a Rich Man is just a richer song, and it's I think it's more full. And I think musically it's a lot better than How She Boogalooed It.
Yeah, How She Boogalooed It is interesting. I like it for what it is. It's like super raucous, which is kind of cool, and it gets like kind of rocking, but it's also kind of hard to decipher what the hell is being said. It's on the mono mix. Maybe You're a Rich Man. That song's been growing on me. That's kind of a weird song too, because like there's such a dichotomy between the verses and the chorus. They don't really sound like they flow together very well, but I think that kind of makes it kind of interesting. So I voted for Baby You're a Rich Man.
I'm actually gonna go tie on this one because like I like both songs. They're both like not favorites for me on the albums that they're on, but I do like both. I like on Baby You're a Rich Man, like the I think Justin, I read it's like a clap that's getting that like really unique sound, like the like that goes throughout it. I really like that. I kind of agree with you, Matt. I don't know like how well the verses and chorus go together. I like them both, but I don't know how well they like mesh. How She Boogalooed It, I know it's kind of, for a lot of people, it's a lesser track in Wild Honey. I probably would agree with that as well, but I do like it. It's fun little like acoustic track. I like the, and the out of sight dancing, like it's another great vocal. I believe it's Carl, but I think there's been some debate over that, but I want to say it's Carl.
Al. Honestly, for years, I thought it was Al.
Yeah. But I like both, but they're both like not top-notch songs for me, so I'm going to say a tie.
Yeah, Baby You're a Rich Man has that great bass line, and the bass is mixed really high in this song and like really boomy. Um and like you guys said too, like I don't know how I feel about the verses versus the chorus. Uh and then there's debate on who wrote what or whatever for that song. But and then How She Boogalooed It to me is kind of like a 60s kind of rocker of the era, with that Farfisa organ again, which is kind of cool. And like, but like Matt said, you can't really decipher what the lyrics are saying. Like, I think they should have compressed the vocal a little bit more so you could hear what he's actually saying, because it's like going from like low to high, like really frequently. Um, and for years it was thought that Al sang this song. They actually put in the liner notes for the 1990 CD that it was Al on vocals, but it's actually Carl on the vocal, which is actually surprising because he this vocal is a little bit rough compared to some of the other vocals that he did on the album. But with that being said, I think Baby You're a Rich Man is a little bit more thought out and a little bit of a better song. So I'm going to go with Baby You're a Rich Man.
Yeah. That organ solo on How She Boogaloo, that's my favorite part of the song, actually. I love that.
That's Bruce playing that.
Yeah, he did great on that. Love that.
Yeah.
All right. All You Need Is Love versus Mama Says. If I have to say my answer, I think that's pretty sad.
You must have to say our answer, honestly.
All you need is love.
We can all agree pretty much. Mama Says is fine as a part of Vegetables, but on its own, it's just too slight. All You Need Is Love.
Doesn't even belong on Wild Honey.
I don't know. I think they just needed something to pad out the very short album, so they're just like, here, we got this, throw it on there. Whereas All You Need Is Love, I think, is one of probably John's better songs. It's got a great message.
I think I don't think it's one of John's greatest songs, but it's
I
definitely
said
more
better.
it's grand in scale though, and I can appreciate that. And I'll always associate the video with it.
And I love the callback to
Um,
"Loves You" at the end.
Yes, me too.
fucking love
Yeah,
that thing.
all you need is love. Like it's one of those songs I feel like that like really is like a unifying song. Like everybody can like connect. It's really like a song like brings people together. I feel like it's got a great message. I agree. I don't think musically it's like one of like the strongest like songs by John, but I think it has a great message and really memorable like chorus. And Mama Says again. I said I don't really care for it. It's just like whatever, like the eat a lot, sleep a lot. I do like the little poof at the end. I think that's kind of funny, but all you need is love easily, and I'll be looking forward to Mike Love's cover of this on Last Love. So
All you need is love.
I mean, trust me, there are some songs with love in them that he can cover because they're not that good. So
He could probably cover this one. It won't be good, but he could probably cover it.
love is
I
all
can
you
see
need.
that.
Justin.
Love is
All you need is love. The chorus really sells it for me on that song. It's just such an infectious chorus, and it's a really great like sing along kind of song. Um, Great for like parties or for like karaoke or something. But Mama Said, yeah, it's just kind of like a really quick vocal track. It's not really a fair matchup, to be honest. I do like the harmonies on Mama Said, and I think it's kind of a fun track, and it was kind of funny the first time I heard it. But that being said, All You Need is Love is just like such an iconic song. So I'm gonna go with All You Need is Love.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really a fair matchup, but that's
Yeah,
just the way
it's not.
it crumbles cookie wise, you know.
I feel like All You Need Is Love is also a song that really represents that era, like that, like kind of like that hippie, like
Flower
you know,
power.
it represents that era. Like I feel like
Yeah.
it's a song people think of when they think of the late '60s.
And this is the first album that they actually equaled the amount of tracks as each other.
Oh, there you go.
With that 12. So I mean, what else was it really going to match up with? Or 11, I guess.
Yeah.
This is tough for me because Magical Mystery Tour will always kind of, for me at least, will be the EP with the hit singles attached at the end. And I can't really unsee that. Even though that this been immortalized in Beatles canon, that the US version, which was released first, is the version. So that's always gonna be tough for me. But even if I'm comparing the two, it's dead down the middle. Which ones, however many they have the same amount of tracks that I like more than the other. They even out. But based on the one I give more spins, I'm gonna go Wild Honey. I think I think Magical Mystery Tour has some really high highs. I'm the Walrus and Strawberry Fields are two of my favorite songs by the band, period. But other than that, I mean, Wild Honey has more tracks that I listen to more. Let the Wind Blow, the title track, Aren't You Glad, Darlin', all songs I listen to pretty regularly. And I Was Made a Lover and Country Air are also on that list. Um, I listen to Strawberry Fields a lot, and I really like I Am the Walrus, but past those two, I don't really spin or listen to Magical Mystery Tour that much. So I'm gonna go Wild Honey.
Yeah, I would say that's tough. Because you make a really good point about it's kind of like just like the EP with it tacked on. I think they're both pretty strong albums. I really, really do like Wild Honey. Yeah, I'm probably gonna give the edge to Wild Honey just because I do feel like if we're just looking at the stuff that was explicitly recorded for Magical Mystery Tour and not the stuff that Capitol tacked on, I think that stuff is weaker than Wild Honey. If we're looking at it as a whole piece, I really think side B of Magic Mystery Tour is probably one of the best stretches of Beatles music ever. I mean, seriously, they put so much good stuff on that side B. But I think I'm gonna give the edge to Wild Honey just because, like I said, if I'm looking at it just as like the Beatles themselves were not happy. It was released as an album. They just wanted it to be the double EP. So I'm gonna look at it just like as like, okay, it's supposed to be the Wild Honey album versus like the new stuff recorded for Magic Mystery Tour. I'll give the edge to Wild Honey.
I think if we're judging them by like which is the more like cohesive album, like which works better like as an album, I'm definitely gonna go Wild Honey. Just because I think it's a great listen from start to finish. I think I think the tracks really flow together well, like the whole R&B soul feel. I think it's really great. Um, I do think Magical Mystery Tour, like judging the full like album version, I think the highest highs are higher than the highs on Wild Honey. As much as I love Wild Honey, like you have Your Mother Should Know. I know not everybody loves that one, but I freaking love that song. Strawberry Fields Forever, Penny Lane, Fool on the Hill. Um, I'm gonna say in that regard, I do give the edge to Magical Mystery Tour. But like you guys said, like those tracks were tacked on at the end. They weren't really meant to be like on an album. So if we're judging it from which is the more cohesive like listen as an album, I would say I give the edge to Wild Honey. But I think the higher highs are on Magical Mystery Tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, Magical Mystery Tour, I really like the John tracks on it a lot. But yeah, Penny Lane too, Paul's song. But Wild Honey is just more of an album that I'd probably put on more often. So I'm gonna have to go with Wild Honey myself.
Yeah. All right.
So
As a year though, 1967, Beatles,
Beatles.
without a doubt.
Beatles,
I
yeah.
love Wild Honey and I like the highs on Smiley Smile, but Sergeant Pepper, Strawberry as a whole, Strawberry Fields alone overtake it. Sergeant Pepper alone overtakes it. But Strawberry Fields is one of my favorite Beatles songs. It's one of my favorite songs ever. Um, and you have the freaking beast that Sergeant Pepper's. It's the Beatles absolutely stepped up their game this year, and I think a lot of it was because they stopped touring. And I mean, even with the lows of Magical Mystery Tour and kind of that whole experience and Brian Epstein passing, they were on a freaking roll. And I know pretty soon they're gonna start breaking up, but the shit they released this year is incredible. And it's a similar run to me with Pet Sounds and Good Vibrations. It's I would say almost pretty much equal. It's nuts what they did in 67. So it's got to be the Beatles for this year though.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, honestly, like as much as we love the stuff that came out in 67 now, the Beach Boys kind of like fell off a cliff, like in real time in 67, at least in the States. This, Smiley Smile did trash. Wild Honey did okay. The delay of Smile really did number them. And then also I think what really damaged their reputation for years and took years for them to recover was not playing Monterey Pop. I mean, it was done for them after that. They were labeled as as has-beens and not hip. So yeah, it has to be the Beatles.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you guys said. Definitely, this is where the Beatles take over, in my opinion. Here's the thing. Even I know, like Beach Boys fans, like Smile is like this really revered album. Like let's say Smile did actually come out in 67, like it was completed. I still would prefer Sgt. Pepper. Like, I'm sorry. I think it's a stronger. I just freaking love the songs on there. And I just think you look at between the albums and the singles that the Beatles are putting out at this point, and these songs are like so like innovative and unique and just amazing. So I have to say Beatles, even as much as I do love Wild Honey as an album, and there's obviously Good Vibrations and there's tracks on Smiley Smile that I do like, but this is no contest for me. Beatles for sure.
Yeah, for me, I echo exactly what you guys have been saying. Wild Honey is a great album for me. Smiley Smile, I like certain parts of it as well too. But the Beatles, their highs were higher this year, I guess you would say, versus the Beach Boys. Even though Magical Mystery Tour, I'd probably put on Wild Honey instead. But yeah, like Strawberry Fields alone, that song is just such a phenomenal song. So I'm gonna have to go with the Beatles too.
Yeah. All right. Thank you everyone for listening to this 19th episode of Good Timin'. I hope you all enjoyed the show. This episode ended up running quite a bit longer than any of us anticipated it would, so we've decided to split it up into two separate shows. So on the next episode we post, we are going to be picking up from where we left off and discussing and comparing the Beatles and Beach Boys albums from 1968 through 1970. So we had a lot of really fun discussions about this period as well. Obviously, both bands are putting out a lot of great music around this time, and it was a lot of fun to hear everybody's thoughts and opinions on each of the songs and albums. So I hope you all join us for that. As always, if you like this podcast and want to hear more, feel free to subscribe or follow wherever you're listening. We greatly appreciate the support as it motivates us to make more episodes in the future. Also, as a reminder, the podcast is available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So there's plenty of different places to listen and keep up with the show. So thank you again, everyone, for listening, and we will see you all next time. Bye-bye.